Morning, morning. Morning, Roxana. Good rainy Sunday morning to you. Thank you as always to my brooms. Alberta Sampath, morning, Alberta. J Dimple 66, morning. Morning, Rockman. Gerald Pascal Manswell, morning, sir. Margaret Thomas, morning to you. Arlene Lewis, Ruth Trude. Leon Graves, morning, sir. Lisa Burton, morning. Cyril Mayas, Carol Boyce, John. Dexter Tweets, morning to all of you guys. Wazid, morning, sir. Neil Francois, always present. Morning to you, sir. Annette Beard, morning. Kathleen Gibbs, Papin. Pauline Buckmeyer, Donna Walcott, sorry. Morning. Ray, Clay Carrington, Kenneth Gabriel, Kathy Belfon, Camilla Dean, Holly LeGaulle, morning to all of you. The Patriot, Jeremy Lewis, Gary Joseph, Glenn Richardson. What else is the Dale Predcott, morning. Deborah Durante, morning, Deborah. Don Can, morning. It's hot by you, Roxana. By me, it's been overcast all morning, and we got a little heavy shower earlier on, and right now, slight drizzle. MWX Derushi, morning. Terence Lynch, Christopher Coffey, morning to you. See who we have on Facebook. Maria Lyons, morning, Maria. Rosemary Headley, Marva James, morning. Alison Floyd, Phyllis Antoine, morning. I am good, Phyllis. I was coming on just now, and I don't know, I just got a sneezing fit all of a sudden. Carol, morning. Carol Myers, yes. Well, I guess the rain is in the east. Sarah Richards, morning. Joycelyn Smallwhite, morning to you. Morning, Diane. Sharon Williams, Deborah Durante, morning. Harold Lee, morning, sir. Jennifer Dorset, Christopher Coffey, Jennifer Nathan. Morning, David Manuel, Alison Boyce. Morning to you guys. Stephanie Fraser Santana. Good morning to His Excellency President of Pleasantville, Nigel O'Connor. First Lady Mauricia Kagan, morning to you. Istra Blake, morning, Istra. Annette Baird, Pamela O'Connor. Maria Lyons again. Emmeline Harvey, morning to you. Ashlyn Robertson, Denise Coggins, Denise Reed. Ruth Frunton, morning. Hyacinth Lewis, Michael Zama, Gemma Alexander, D. morning, guys. Sean Ziba, morning to all of you. See, so the persons are joining, right? It's already 11:15. Quite a few things to touch on. Hopefully, I'll get to do Ralph as promised. I'm looking for something specific here. I thought it would have been shared on our WhatsApp chat that I usually get stuff on, but I don't know what happened there. How come that guy missed that? All right, let me see what we have. Let's see if I get this here. Give me 1 second to pull this up while the other folks join in. Where is it? So, give me 1 second to find this. Right, this is what I'm looking for. Just screenshot that. Nice. So, it is the. What's he did today? I don't even know what he did. 2024 just flying before you know it. Sunday, 25th. Exactly 4 months to Christmas Day. Before you turn around twice. That's it in 2025. Election year. Plenty people looking forward to that. Anyway, Marcia Collins, Petal Williams, Donna Seeley, Sarah Richards, Anne Marie Montique. Demetri McEwen, morning to all of you guys. So, yes, good morning to Mr. Chance, Mr. Yates, Mother Tuna Puna, morning Angie, all of you other guys. So, should I say so many things to talk about, I just don't have the time. So let me just touch on this one quickly, which I saw yesterday, which has me a little bit concerned, right? So the PNM would have started screening for the general election. I think they would have started screening for 9 constituencies currently held by the United National Congress. And of course, one of the constituencies that they would have screened for would have been the crucial seat of Moruga Tableland. As we know, PNM would have lost that seat in 2020 after having held it in 2015 to 2020, where it was held by now High Commissioner to South Africa, Lovell Francis, who I understand was interested in being screening for the seat, but I don't know what happened. His name wasn't put forward, as the case may be. Now, as I understand it, the process to be screened is that if you can get party groups to nominate you, then you would be able to come before the screening committee. So it's not like the UNC where they tell you, well, just come and fill out our nomination form and probably have somebody sign it, and you come and you pay your $1,000 or $2,000, whatever it is. Yeah, they charge you to be screened because they're desperate for money. Anyhow, they could get money. They even robbing their own, but anyway, you present yourself, and PNM, you must be at least nominated by party groups and so on. So I saw a post yesterday where apparently one of the persons who was screened and who would have gotten the nod from the screening committee, that the executive of the constituency, the PNM executive, doesn't support that candidate. And so, based on the post that I saw, it appears that if the executive doesn't support the candidate, then they may be required to go back out and find somebody else, because apparently the person that the executive would have put up did not get the nod. Long and short, the story is that in the comments under the post that I saw, it appears to be developing a no vote campaign where persons who support the PNM are saying that if candidate or prospective candidate Lisa Atwater is not selected, that they will not be voting. That is a critical seat where every single vote counts, right? And we cannot at this early stage be taking the position that if we don't get this person, we not vote. That's what happened in 2020. Gypsy was selected as a candidate. People didn't like Gypsy for whatever reason, and they decided to vote for, they not voted. They withheld their vote, and Michelle Benjamin was able to win the seat, right? And it seems as if something similar is happening again. This time, you can't fault the screening committee because they would have selected the person, what I understand is Lisa Atwater. That's what I read. I don't have it empirical, so I'm going based on what I read from persons in the constituency who are saying that if Lisa Atwater is not the candidate, then they're not going to vote for whoever is chosen. So that situation needs to sort itself out, because we saw that the PNM clearly is on a resurgence in that constituency with the outcome of the last by-election in Lengua Indian Walk, right? Michelle Benjamin is not confident. As much as they love to say that they have the PNM against the ropes. At the end of the day, we can't afford to make that mistake. That's how the PNM lost in 2010. Again, when candidates were selected that the wider membership of the PNM did not support, we saw it in Arima. We lost the Arima seat because the people wanted Penny. Mr. Manning gave them Laurel Zamali Singh, who did not meet with the favor of a number of PNM people, and they said Penny or nothing, right? Penny then went to Lahoketa Talparo to be screened for that seat. Again, she was rejected. People say, well, all right, well, no. We lost the Lahoketa Talparo seat. So I am just saying, again, UNC could be who? Kamla could put who in a seat. They care. They voted. Whether they like the person or not, whether that is the person of their choice or not, they voted for that person, because at the end of the day, they see in the bigger picture, they want to get into office. And if it means that they have to compromise on the candidate. They're doing that for the sake of the party getting into office, and we will deal with everything afterward. I don't know what's the situation developing there, but maybe there needs to be some sort of party executive intervention to mediate, and hopefully that situation will be sorted out, because that is one of the seats that we need. Right? We need to get that seat just in case the voters in Tobago decide to play fast and loose with their vote and give even one seat to the TPP. We need to make sure that we secure as many as we can in Trinidad to nullify any unforeseen that could happen in Tobago. Right? So, so that is saying all the long talk short, because some does swing like a monkey up and down a tree. Yes. Let me see. Okay. Don't worry, we intend to discuss that as well, Petal. That's one of the issues that I intend to talk about on another day. Right? Yes, I'm okay saying, you mean to say these people didn't learn from what happened the last time, learn from the UNC. Don't toot, vote. Exactly. Don't toot, vote. Right? So there needs to be some sort of, we need to sort out that situation on there while it's still early. Right? Don't let it fester, because when people make up their mind, well, I we don't want this person, and that's that, and we done. And understand the bigger picture, because you might say, well, we're now in supporting and we lose that seat, and that could have been a critical seat to make the difference, and then we end up with Kamla Prasad Bisesa for 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days. Okay? And one thing I cannot take, if, God forbid, these people were to win in 2025, you wouldn't hear the end of that from people like Munilal. Munilal waiting 9 years now to get back at Champa for Kojovi. See, when Champa made that statement in 2015, we in charge now? Munilal waited to get back at the letter. We in charge now. We in charge. And by extension, the supporters of the UNC waiting to be able to make that same charge. We in charge now. They will make PNM supporters eat the bread the devil need. For 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, they will torment all you. Right? Bear that in mind. They are not about issues. Because if they could support a number of persons with legal issues hanging over their head as candidates to represent them in the parliament, then it tells you they are not about issues. They are not about good governance. They are just about their party getting back into power. And they figure that Kamala has the solution or the magic bullet to deal with crime, which she does not have. Because her solution is to make it easier for everybody to get gun. She recognizes that neither the government or the police could be able to stop the crime situation, and therefore we're giving you gun firearm user's license so you could go and get a gun. So when, not if, when the bandits come or when the home invaders come, that you would be able to defend yourself and deal with them. Rather than say, well, okay, this is what we're going to do with the police, whoever, this is the crime plan that we have in place, and we believe that this is going to solve the problem. Crime is a major issue. So I'm not going to talk about that today, but see, except for the fact that unless we address the root cause, because if you look at the average age group of the people who are being held for crimes these days, or being identified by the police as being involved in all of these major crimes, they're between the ages of 15 to 30, right? 15 to 30. So it's safe to say that the people who used to be committing crimes back in the early 90s and stuff, who right now in their 40s and 50s, they're not about our life. Okay? So it's the new generation of criminals. And the fact of the matter is, if they're between the ages of 15 to 30 years old, it means 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the 13-year-old was 15. When did he become a criminal? When? When he reached age 20? And what influenced that for him to become a criminal? It speaks to the background that he came from. Because all of us law-abiding citizens who have no inclination to pick up a gun and rob anybody, or who have no inclination to pick up a gun and kill anybody, or to engage in any sort of criminal act, it speaks to our own upbringing and our own values. I have no desire to pick up a gun and go and stick up anybody, or rob any business place, or run into anybody home and take what they work hard for. And I know that all of you all who listening here too have no such inclination. So what is the root cause of that inclination that these people between the ages of 15 to 30, the police picking up, that have this desire to do that? And again, I keep saying it starts in the home. It starts in the home. And if you straighten out your children from the time that they're 15 years old, But plenty of these, if you look into the background of the 15 and the 16 and the 17-year-old, 17-year-old who getting shot by the police or who getting picked up by the police, you will see. So again, I applaud that mother who took her son to the police station the other day when he stole the neighbor's clothes. She wasn't prepared to turn a blind eye and say, well, I do my best. And that is one of the excuses we keep getting. Well, I do my best. I can't do no more. Well, say what me to do. Let the police deal with him. Let the government deal with him. How the police and government supposed to deal with him? At the end of the day, the police is not parent. They're doing their job, and their job is to stop them. And if it means, as Gary used to say, one shot, one kill, they will do that. Right? But then it's an expense to the state. So let it start there. All who have their children now and the children are doing good in school, and you see them and just 2 more years and then I good. Because all you see your child as is an expense. And you can't wait for them to finish school so that they can start to work and take care of themselves. And whatever the work is, it don't matter to you. So if they're robbing people and killing people, what the hell was that? Again, the government can only do so much. That is why through the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service is practically every week, the ministry rolling out programs to attract the young people, rolling out the programs, telling them come, instead of going towards a life of crime, instead of making yourself available for the criminal element and the gangs, come and learn something that could put money in your pocket. We're paying you a stipend too. So if you want an incentive to come, so we're not just telling you to come and sit down and learn how to operate a crane. We're not just telling you to come and sit down for 2 years and learn the various aspects of agriculture, and then we're giving you something at the end of it. We're giving you a stipend too, something that you're not getting now. Come, we're paying you to learn. There is the incentive. And instead of some of these parents trying to direct the children to that, they just throw their hand up in the air. Okay, I have 5 and 1 went astray, so I need to see how best I could do with the next 4. But that one that went astray has an influence on 2 or 3 of the other 4. And then what? I try my best. You can't tell me that, because I said I grew up in a single parent home. There were 5 of us, and my mother did very well on her own. And as Pam says, them kids are accustomed to fast money and easy money. That's exactly what it is. And too many parents want to be your children's friend. You go in the same fete with your children? Really? Really? When I was in school back in the late 90s, early 2000s, that definitely wasn't the norm. And again, and I see, I'm not talking about this today, or I was not planning, because anyway. But I just wanted to mention one thing else. I am disappointed in my own alma mater, and I make no apologies for saying that, right? And the current parents who have children going to primary school, secondary school mostly, who would have been in the generation perhaps just before me, and in some cases, some of them in my generation, right, have lost the values that they would have grown up with. And I am seeing, when I go to even my own alma mater, St. Mary's College, from time to time, when the past students union, when we have our monthly board meeting, and I see some of the students in the forecourt where they have the basketball rings and so on, and I look at some of the hairstyles, right? I am seeing some of these boys with their hair big open. Some of them, they have it in one with a woogie or whatever it is. They didn't even care to comb it, right? You have a afro comb or something, at least make it look decent now. They don't even care to do that. Sometimes I see some of them walking down the road and it's amazing. And I'm saying, I thinking to myself, I cannot believe your parents allow you to leave the house looking like that. Right? Because when I was there, I could tell you that would not have been allowed. That would not have been allowed at all. Proper grooming was one of the things that you were taught. And when you came in Form 1, and we had that first assembly, or even when you came in for the Form 1, what is called it? Just when this come in for orientation with your parents. And the principal let you know these are the school's rules. If you can't abide by that, and it goes against your parenting belief, feel free to request a transfer for your child to some other school. But we are letting you know these are the rules here, and we will tolerate no deviation. If you have a problem with it, it's not too late. Seek a transfer from the ministry. But we have standards to maintain here, and we are not about to bend those standards because you want to come and talk about values, and that's it. We're not having that. So we tell you, black shoe, your child can't come to school with no Nike sneakers, and they take, even if it's small, so The principal at that time, as Father Dick, was a very strict man. He not taking that. Go back home, fix it, get some black dye or something, black polish, and fix that. The rule is black shoes. Your shirt's supposed to be in your pants. Certain things, this is what we expect. You're supposed to be well groomed because we have a tradition to maintain, standards to maintain. That when people are looking to see which school to send their sons to, right, there must be certain things that they look for. Discipline. Back then, you could have got your tail cut. In the 7 years that I was there, I got my tail cut twice. And for it was a simple thing, talking in class when the teacher wasn't there. And the dean assigned a prefect, somebody to take names of anybody who was misbehaving or who talking or whatever it is. And simple thing, I got my tail cut the first time in Form 1. The dean came the Friday afternoon and he said, all these people see me first thing 8 a.m. on Monday morning. So whole weekend you're worried, the whole weekend you're stressed because you know you're going and get your tail cut Monday morning. Monday morning, bright and early, 8 o'clock, everybody line up outside the dean office. He said, come inside, make room, come in. He sat down on his desk, swinging his legs from side to side. Hey, let me hear the excuses. What's your excuse? What's your excuse? And after he asked about 10 boys, he said, well, if I were to ask all of you for an excuse as to why it is your name is on this list, everybody will have an excuse. You say what? So you know what? Everybody gets in the tail cut. Went around the desk, open the bottom drawer and pull out this thick leather strap. Who first? And everybody there think. And all man who want to play brave, come up and they put out your hand. And when they get the first one, because the dean was a strapped, muscular man, so he have power. And the first one, hand drop, pressure, right? Man jump aside. He didn't realize it was good. Next, who come in? Because it's 3 on each hand, eh? Right. Who want to play brave and take all 6 on the same hand, you go ahead. But rest assured, for the rest of the day, if you're right-handed or you're left-handed, whichever hand you put out, you can't use that hand. Trust me. I know I took 3 by 3. Right? Your hands stinging, your fingers numb. For the first 10 minutes, you can't even bend it. After that, the next time I got my tail cut was in, Form 2. Similar situation. After that, no more licks for me. I fall in line. When the teacher not there, I fingers on my lip, my mouth up as if I have nothing to say. Reading my book because mine is not going on no list again, no cut tail. I don't want no detention from 2:05 till 5 o'clock in the evening when I should be home in my house. I sweep in corridor, cutting grass. These were the things that they had us doing. Cleaning blackboard, straightening desks in all of the classrooms from Form 1 to Form 6 with the Form 3 dean at the time who was the head of detention. And when he come into a classroom and he looking to see if it is the desk lineup, and if one row out of line, he would push the desk, all the desk on and do it over. He go and check in the others and make sure when he come back and he check it the second time that it's right. Otherwise, you will stay there. He had no problem. He live in Woodbrook. I live in Arima. Me, we don't have that again. And if you take note, the people who are committing the crimes today and the age groups, as though the generation that came after the Goodly Kamla Prasad predecessor decided to remove corporal punishment from school. At least if you weren't getting discipline and your tail cut home, you could have get it in school. Now you ain't getting it nowhere. Because some of these teachers, I just come here to teach and get my salary, you know. So if you don't want to learn, that's your business. It's not my problem. I'm not getting paid to babysit. Right? We'll discuss that on another day. That's a topic for another day. Because I too am frustrated by the crime situation, and I know that is perhaps the biggest challenge the government faces right now, especially going into a general election. But we'll see where that goes. But as I said, that's a topic for another time. So we saw over the last couple of days, the Port Authority would have moved in on Movietown to exercise their right of re-entry after it is reported that Movietown is supposedly owing the Port Authority and its agents some $10 million in rent, right? And there seems to be some contention with respect to the figure because Movietown is saying that they will win $6 million something based on some rate that was agreed to. And anyway, so it's now the subject of litigation. But I raised the issue because when I read the comments, as I often do under these posts, I was surprised to see the fully done's, the usual suspects, right, who are coming to Mr. Chin's defense and to the defense of the directors of the Movietown group, because it's not just Mr. Chin alone. In fact, it's a consortium of Chinese businessmen. And I know this fact for a fact because the current generation of directors, I would have gone to St. Mary's College with the sons of several of them, right? So I'm aware. In fact, I'm in a WhatsApp group chat with one of them, with Derek Chin's son. So, and I'm going to disclose some of the things that he put in the chat. But anyway, needless to say, so we know we would have seen a couple months ago, it was reported that Mr. Chin is allegedly owing the state $93 million in taxes. And now we have this $10 million debt. So in total, we're looking at $103 million that is owed to the state by Mr. Chin, allegedly, right? He hasn't even know, right? And the fully duns who come into Mr. Chin's defense to say, Rowley wicked. And he ain't care about the people, all of the workers, the Movietown workers, who are minimum wage workers, and school going on open just now. And he ain't care about the workers and them how they paying the bills. And some of them had children to send to school and they had their children to feed. And he ain't care. And they just go on and they want to shut down Movietown. And what going on happen to all of these poor workers? I'm saying, really? When Dr. Rowley made this statement 4 years ago, there is nothing wrong with the rich getting richer, but the poor must come out of poverty. And when he went on to say that when the rich get richer, they create opportunities for the poor. The same people who now come into the defense of Mr. Chin wanted to kill Dr. Rowley for that statement, right? They vilify him up and down this country. Oh, thing you only care about the rich, you only care to hear where he said the rich have to get richer, and all of that. They twist and turn that statement all how, without examining exactly what was said and the validity of same. So today, they come in to defend the same opportunities that Mr. Chin, who would have opened Movietown because he wanted to get richer, they coming to defend these same opportunities that they cussed Dr. Rowley for. Mr. Chin created these employment opportunities out of his desire to become richer when he opened Movietown. But when Dr. Rowley said it, Rowley thing, Rowley mother, so and so, it didn't have what they didn't say about the Prime Minister. And today, they're coming to defend the same thing that he said. All of a sudden, these opportunities that were no good, when Dr. Rowley said it, all of a sudden they're embracing these opportunities. All of these workers, what they will do, they will be on the breadline and they can't pay their bills and who have to pay their rent and all of that. The same opportunities that you all vilify the PM for, all of a sudden now you all recognize the opportunities, the fully duns. We're not surprised. Hypocrites, that is what they are. A bunch of blasted hypocrites. So now, Mr. Chin, anyway, let me read this, right? So they're so concerned now about Mr. Chin and how he contributed to the economy and he created employment and the government wicked to move in on the man and they could have given him a chance and they could have negotiated with him and work out something so that the workers could continue to work. Or clearly they didn't read the story, which clearly says that the Port Authority would have indicated that with the exception of them taking control of the office, right, the administrative office, that operations would continue under the control of the landlord, which is I can't remember the exact name of the Port of Spain, something which falls under the Port Authority. But the other businesses have no problems, continue to operate. It's just that now you'll be paying your rent based on what was said to this entity instead of paying it to Mr. Chin's entity. That's all. But I didn't read that. But let me read this for them, right? The people who had an issue with the rich getting richer now coming to defend the same rich. Coming to defend the same rich to get richer. Because apparently Mr. Chin so hard up and he's struggling. Let me just read this quickly. I'm not going to dwell on that too much because I have other things to talk about. But let me just read this quickly. There's an article from The Guardian dated the 17th of August 2023. No new plans for streets of the world. Despite the challenges that Movietown faced during the lockdowns as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, owner Derek Chin has renewed vigor. In a sit-down interview with Business Guardian earlier this month, Chin said he went to the cinema controller this year with an energized feeling after seeing moviegoers coming back. He indicated that blockbusters such as Barbie, which has hit US $1 billion at the global box office, have done well in keeping a steady flow of moviegoers in both Trinidad and Guyana. Chin noted, while the revenue numbers are still not near pre-COVID figures, the people coming to the cinemas again and new tenants occupying empty spaces at the complex at Invaders Bay are encouraging. It's 2023. New tenants occupying the empty spaces at the complex at Invaders Bay are encouraging. The businessman said he is pleased that after operating in Trinidad for the past 20 years, the brand can offer different entertainment experiences for families. In November, we turned 21 years and we have evolved over the years and we will embark on a refurbishing exercise, Chin said. Touching on Guyana, he said there were many hurdles to overcome as operations of the US 50 million movie town began in 2019 and then March 2020, COVID-19 pandemic struck. So he invested US $50 million into Guyana to open a movie town there. US 50 million. All the while, he was owing taxes to the Board of Inland Revenue. But that wasn't a priority. The priority was to invest 50 million US into Guyana. It still does have some challenges, to be quite honest, but I'm seeing a revitalization with a lot of people coming back and investing new software for the screens and all of that. He said Streets of the World is still a sour point. 13 years ago, he had the vision to create a mega project called Streets of the World at Invaders Bay in Port of Spain, which would have boosted tourism and employment in TNT. So 13 years ago was 2010, right? Who came into office in 2010? I just drawing that for reference. However, it was caught up in politics, bureaucracy, and some negative aspects, and this resulted in the building of a movie town in Guyana. So he decided to take his money from Trinidad, his 50 million US that was supposed to build Streets of the World here, and take it to Guyana instead, where he was born. Guyana has also been a welcomed addition coming about by the lost investment in Trinidad of our streets project. So one door closed and another opened, and of course, blessed by the major oil finds in Guyana, which came after we invested in Guyana, our real estate values grew as a result. The government has encouraged me to continue investing and developing over there, and we are doing just that. So he's investing and developing in Guyana. Additional lands have been made available for new projects. The President, Irfan Ali, has been very encouraging to me, and he said with great pride, the businessman believes that the country lost a significant opportunity. That's Trinidad. He said the Streets of the World would have been approved, had it been approved, would have changed this country. A world-class showcase for our carnival with a wax museum showing the famous band leaders and icons of carnival. The famous costumes like Tantan and Saga Boy displayed in all their magnificence, a beautiful panyard with all the amenities, streets reflecting the various cultures of Trinidad, and he went on. According to the businessman 2 years ago, Udicott approached him about his plans for the Invaders Bay land, but he is uncertain that this time he would revisit such a mega project. As Chin said, he is not getting younger and he has to deal with some challenges. Here it is. The owner is eyeing Jamaica to set up another movie town. As he said, it can be a lucrative market expansion given the country's growing economy. Recently, we have been in talks with some people who are interested in us going to Jamaica, and we would like to become the equivalent of Sandals. So hopefully we will go into Jamaica later this year. I wonder if Mr. Chen anybody own in any rent in Guyana. Oh, Tobago. There's a movie town in Tobago too, right? I wonder if you own any rent for there. So $103 million is owed to the state based on what was reported. I ain't any fully done telling you what that $103 million could do. Normally they would tell you how many hospitals, how much beds they could buy, and they could invest that money to pave roads, and they could invest that money in schools, and all of that. They're always quick to tell you what that money could be spent on. But today, rather than calling for it to be paid, they're coming to Mr. Chin's defense. Right? I don't think Mr. Chin's bank account, personal bank account, is any worse for wear. You see the vehicles that he drives and his children drive. Right? They don't seem to be doing too bad. But investments taking place in Guyana, investments supposedly taking place in Jamaica, or are supposed to, while 93 million at least is owed to the state, to the government of Trinidad and Tobago. That is revenue that the government needs to pay things like salaries. Normally you would hear them talking, oh, all that money, and public servants can't get a raise. We're still working on 2013 salaries. Where is the fully done to come and advocate for that and talk about how that 103 million could pay public servants? They love to do that. And now, they're quiet. Let us run to Mr. Chin's defense. Okay? But then like to talk about Rowley say the rich must get richer. But who defending the rich now? Who advocating for the rich to get richer at the expense of the public purse? Who? Right? I thought Dr. Rowley is supposed to be in the pocket of the 1%, which Mr. Chin is a part of. So how come the Port Authority moved in? They didn't get instruction. They missed the memo from Dr. Rowley that say, leave Mr. Chin alone because he's a member of the 1% and the 1% controls me and the PNM. And that's what it say. But no, when it is that things like these happen and it makes a lie out of that claim, they come in with something different. Waste of time. But anyway, that will sort itself out. Today's a crazy indulgent moment. Folks, all you know when I mentioned that who it is I had to play, right? I need to come back to the issue of the live sport because I saw the Prime Minister had to put out something on his Facebook page there, denouncing the Express newspaper's editorial of today, which seeks to make an equation between live sport, the $34 million that was paid for no work done, and the decision of the government to put the steel pan on the coat of arms. And I keep saying the Express editorial, and by extension, the Express newspaper, is nothing more than a sleazy tabloid. Because if you've read the editorials of the Express for the last few weeks, you would see, and I keep asking, who is this editor? Put your name. Don't just put Express editorial, put your name so we could see who you are and expose you. But anyway, forgive me, eh? No, see. Let me get it. I ain't gonna play the whole thing. And the rains are down. But we need it. Oh, yes, condolences as well to the family of the late Lawrence Dupre, former head of CL Financial, who has now gone to the great beyond. And needless to say, based on the comments I've seen on social media with respect to his passing, not everybody held him in high esteem. Right? So, yeah, some people have wished him good riddance. And that's Trinidad for you. Let me just get this here. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but please.
Doubles and coffee. PNM's live sport lies. Another one crumbles as the contractual dispute went to court, and the sport company, which is the sport company that was overseeing live sport, won the contractual battle. Now there may be an appeal to recoup money based on the paper trail and the assertions of the then sport company in the live sport program that a contracted goods and service provider was failing to do their duty. There was a paper trail back and forth, arguing and fighting to make sure that the country gets value for money. This was all turned upside down with PNM lies about 34 million for nothing and corruption, when it was a contractual dispute that was heading to the civil court. And yesterday, the civil court ruled that due to non-performance, due to lack of input, that the company, the taxpayers will get back their money. This was only able to happen because the truth was there and it took its time. That it was a contractual dispute, not any corruption, not any collusion, not any board members getting benefits and so on. It was a contracted supplier who did not want it appeared to perform his duties. And the sport company who was managing was trying to create a scenario to get results. But you know who suffered? Young black boys across Trinidad and Tobago who were benefiting from live sport. But PNM don't want poor people to get a little food. PNM don't want poor people to be uplifted. PNM seems happy that young black people just out there on the streets killing themselves. That's why the crime situation has gotten out of hand, and nothing Rowley could do, say, or want to do shows that he cares. Puts Fitzgerald at Talbot narcolepsy, sleepy, sativa, ride a horse with an 8-year-old boy, and then adds on Keith Scotland, who Rowley rejected for 4 years to come and pretend that he's doing something when nothing is being done, and every day we see in the blood of our young black boys on the street, and Rowley and the PNM don't care. So they turned it into a lie about corruption. The audit report was rejected by the courts because it was out of hand, fraudulent, and corrupt, and it did not follow best practice, and it was fraught with lies. Now, the sport company has won a judgment against that same goods and service provider for not fulfilling the contract, for not providing the services that the sport company back in 2012, 2013, 2014 was fighting to ensure that that supplier provided the services that he was being paid for, that the company was being paid for. And just to show you, let me just show you, because don't say I didn't have a crystal ball, but the truth will always come, and the truth travels very slowly. Look at my letter of resignation here to the Speaker of the House, as I not only resigned from being a minister, I resigned in the principles, the best principles and convention of Westminster as a member of Parliament. Also, nobody could have removed me from being an elected member of Parliament. But the principles of Westminster suggest that if there are allegations swirling and swirling, you remove yourself, clear your name, and return. But look at page 2. I just want to say, now that the judgment has come down, Honorable Speaker, before Friday 25th, and this letter is dated, let me just make sure, I don't want to say any lie, 4th August 2014. Let me look at it right there, okay, to the Honorable Speaker. Let me just read. I won't read the whole thing, but everything I put here is coming to pass one by one. Honorable Speaker, before Friday, 25th July 2014, this issue in live sport was a legal one, a civil one of a contractual nature, which seemed to be heading to the civil courts for resolution. However, the laying of an incomplete, erroneous Central Audit Committee report of the Ministry of Finance and the Economy in this Honorable House, stating inter alia that the entire payment of 34 million to eBeam Interact Limited was made, notwithstanding that external attorneys advised that there may be grounds to contest and resist the final payment. This false conclusion transformed a civil matter into a criminal one, and the subsequent firestorm of unsubstantiated claims, allegations, counterclaims, and unwarranted attacks and assassination of character throughout this country has gone unabated. And Honorable Speaker, today I beseech you to clarify the record. But just about 10 years later, the record is now clarified.
Clarify which record? The woman who was the prime minister of the country at that time, who would have read the report, and she was satisfied with the contents of the report. She was satisfied with the findings of the report that didn't only speak to the issue of the 34 million. It addressed several other issues and instances of corruption and wrongdoing in that program that they call live sport. But when he seeks to make it as if the only issue in live sport was the 34 million, and now the sport company of Trinidad and Tobago has been able to get a judgment to get back the money, that somehow he is vindicated and the program is vindicated. But all the other instances where we have people who were getting contracts for tens and what a day, incarcerated for murder, sitting in prison for the last donkey years since they were in office, sitting in prison. Some of them would have been fingered for the murder of Dana Sitahal, who eat a food, drink a juice, and belch from the live sport program. He ain't talk about them, right? But he put it in his letter to make it seem as if the only issue was the 34 million. When Kamla Prasad Bisesa stood up in the parliament and read out the report, basically setting the stage for the court to quash the report, she made no mention of eBeam. She made no mention of any 34 million, right? When she asked for his resignation, it had nothing or precious little to do with that. It was that and others, all the other things, all the allegations we heard, the 58 million that they spent on catering, and companies with names like Dustbin Divers and all this kind of thing who got ton of money. Mikey K, who was getting $90-something thousand a month to produce videos and so on, and interviews to say that the program was doing so well. All of these things, when Mr. Philip Edward Alexander, who wanted to come with a program called, because when I say everybody else eating our food, come with a program called Equal Time, right? Where he was proposing to host this 1-hour show on what was then CNMG. According to the transcripts of the email that he sent to Rudal Munilal, which was leaked, where he was proposing to sanitize disgraced government ministers. And the first person he wanted to interview was this bald-headed lout in an attempt to explain Room 201. But he coming to tell you now about the live sport report. The audit report was fraudulent and it was quashed by the court because the content, anyway. And this is a claim he has been making for a long time. Let me just read this quickly. Just quickly. With respect to the laying of the report, right? In that matter, where the live sport report was quashed by the court and the Central Audit Committee was given instructions to go back and do it over correctly this time, the court was never asked or invited to make any determination with respect to the contents of the report and any claims or allegations in there. Ashwin Creed, who was the permanent secretary in that ministry under he, along with one Cornelius Price and two other men, challenged the report on the basis that they were not given an opportunity to respond to the findings in the report made against them, right? Their claim was that the Central Audit Committee, which conducted the audit and generated the report, had promised that they would give them an opportunity to see, before the report was published, you would give them an opportunity to see what the report said about them and give them an opportunity to respond so that their claims or their positions would also be recorded in the report. So if you tell me, if you make a claim against me and say I thief or I shared any 34 million, I could come and see, well, okay, that is not true. If you claim that I gave a contract to John, Jenny, and Jane, or I gave a contract to Dustbin Divers, I could come and say, well, that is not true. And if I have documentary evidence to prove that is not true, I present it to you so you could make your adjustments, your amendments to your report before you submit it, because your report is implicating me in wrongdoing. And I am saying this is not true, but I want an opportunity to respond to this report. Because when this report is published and it is put in the public domain, and people are reading and seeing how I do this and I do that, I don't have a platform to be able to present my point of view until this matter comes before the court. So I want it in the report. So when it is laid in the parliament and it is available for public consumption on the parliament's website, that anybody reading the report could see what the audit committee says they found, and they could read my submission and come to a conclusion. That is why they took the matter to the court. And the court found, you all have a case, yes, that a promise was made to you by the Central Audit Committee that they would give you, they will have an exit meeting and give you an opportunity to state your side before the report was published, and they would put your side into the report. And that didn't happen. You know why that didn't happen? Let me read for you directly from the judgment. Only one little piece here. Yes, Noah? Right. Item 74 in the judgment states, the evidence in respect of an express promise. Let me go back to 73. The claimants, which is Mr. Creed, Mr. Price, and the other two guys, as the parties alleging the existence of a settled practice, carry the burden to prove their allegation, insofar as the defendants, which is the Central Audit Committee, have refuted their allegations. The claimants ought to have attempted to establish their case by cross-examination. This they have failed to do and have accordingly failed to discharge their burden of proof. This issue of fact falls to be resolved in favor of the defendants, and I find, as a matter of fact, that the claimants failed to discharge their burden of proving that there was a settled practice of audit committees holding an exit meeting. So as I told you, the exit meeting was to give these gentlemen an opportunity to say their piece. Here, why that exit meeting didn't happen, despite the promise of the Central Audit Committee. The evidence in respect of an express promise was, however, very different. The uncontroverted evidence in this case was that the Central Audit Committee promised the claimants, who was Ashwin Creed, Cornelius Price, and the others, an exit meeting, and that they reneged on their promise when the Minister of Finance unexpectedly called for the report. This was a promise to allow consultation. It therefore was not an expectation of substantive benefit. The Court of Appeal, and then she goes on to say that the expectation of these claimants was based on a promise by the Central Audit Committee that they would have afforded them an opportunity to be heard. The expectation was that if the promised opportunity was not forthcoming, even then, they should have been afforded an opportunity to persuade the committee to keep their promise. The committee, however, has not contended that it paid any mind to the promise which it had made to allow the claimants an exit meeting. So the Central Audit Committee, which produced the live sport report and provided all of the information with respect to all of this wrongdoing, promised Cornelius Price, Ashwin Creed, and the other two guys that, look, before we complete the report, we will give you fellas a hearing here. We will show you this is what we found, and we'll give you an opportunity to respond, and we will put your responses in the report. And before the Central Audit Committee could do that, the then Minister of Finance, the $11.625 million man, unexpectedly called for the report. And the Central Audit Committee had to wrap up the report, and they didn't have time to give these men the opportunity. Why was that? When you have so many attorneys in the parliament, and not in the parliament, but in the cabinet at that time, you had Anand Ramlogan, you had Kamla Prasad Bisesa, you had Prakash Ramada. I think Rural Munilal has legal qualifications as well, and you had a couple others. All of these attorneys couldn't say, well, hey, hold your hand, because if you call for that report and you have not given these men an opportunity to be heard, and you publish that report, they could now challenge that report in the court and get it quashed. I call in for the report. And exactly that happened. So none of these attorneys could tell Larry Hawaii, the $11.625 million man, don't do that. Allow the Central Audit Committee to do their work. Let them finish their work. They have made a promise. Basically, what you're doing is giving the defendants in this matter an opportunity to go to the court, challenge the report, and have the report thrown out. That is exactly what happened. So the judge is saying here, notwithstanding the fact that these guys come and they say settle practice or whatever, the defendants, who in this case is the Central Audit Committee, were able to prove that that is not settled practice and this is not something that they would normally do. But they made a promise that they would do it. And they reneged on that promise because the Minister of Finance called for the report before the report was completed, paving the way for Kamla Prasad Bisesa to come in the parliament, read the report, and by then it was all over. But when I listened to that bald-headed lout who want to come and make a case and present as if the findings was false, Kamla Prasad Bisesa was satisfied that it was true. So satisfied that not only did she ask for his resignation as Minister of Sport, I don't know if she asked for it as the Member of Parliament, but he probably want to play high and mighty. Your fireman, basically, you want my resignation as Minister of Sport. Well, I will resign as the Member of Parliament for Dabadi Mera 2, and because it is too late to call a by-election, I'll cripple you by one seat. Right? Because he's arrogant like that. But not only did she read out the report, not only did she ask for his resignation, but she brought the live sport program to an end, an immediate end. Because she was satisfied with the claims in the Central Audit Committee's report that there was significant wrongdoing in that program, and she shut it down. And in the same parliament, when she shut it down, when she read the report, she made a promise, again, a promise to the same little black boys he talked about. Don't worry. We know some of you might be worried and concerned about, the continuance of the program and alternatives, but we will find an alternative for you all. Don't worry. The alternative never came. It never came. But they're so concerned about the at-risk youth. All the money they pay Selwyn Ryan and his committee to go and write up this report and so on, and what is the challenges facing the at-risk youth and the African community and all of that. Right? But it wasn't important to them to find a new program to occupy these young men. Even though they weren't learning anything, because the main crux of the program was to provide them with math and English, which they were not interested in, by the way, and they would have expressed a desire that what they really wanted was vocational courses. They wanted courses like plumbing, carpentry. They wanted to learn things like air condition and refrigeration, things that they could use immediately once they've completed these courses and go and work for themselves. Practical things like that. That is what they indicated. But for some reason, the Ministry of Sport was insistent, no. Maths and English is what it is. Math and English. All these programs that the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service today offering, right? These are the programs that these young men wanted back then, 10 years ago. This is what they wanted. And maybe if they had given these young men what they wanted 10 years ago, instead of insisting that they learn math and English, instead of giving them qualifications as this current Ministry of Youth Development and this administration is doing, in all of these over 40 courses, anything they want to learn, barbering, hairdressing, as I said, air conditioning and refrigeration, they want to learn how to operate a crane, tall crane, come. We're giving you a stipend to learn that too. You want to learn how to operate a tractor, backhoe? Come. We're teaching you to do that too. You want to get training to become a linesman in TNTech? Come. We have a program for that too in conjunction with TNTech. You want to work in the energy sector? We have a program with that too in conjunction with BP and NESC and NGC. Come. We have that for you too. We're giving you a stipend. What else you want to learn? Tell us, and we will put it in place. That is what this administration is doing under the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service. So they have no excuse. If you have a program, if you have something you're interested in and they don't have it now, bet your bottom dollar that once it reaches the ear of Foster Cummins, within 2 weeks to a month, there will be a program offering that. That is what the young people wanted. Some of them who are today committing crime, some of them who are today killing people and robbing people and invading people's homes. 10 years ago, how old were they? 10 years ago, 11 years ago, they were teenagers. Today, they're in the mid to late 20s, right? Lost in the system. If it is, Foster Cummins was the Minister of Youth Development 10 years ago, bet your bottom dollar, the crime situation would not have been what it is today, right? Because exactly what the people who are committing the crimes today were crying out for 10 years ago when he, not but 10, 12 years ago, when he was Minister of Sport, when Kamla Persad-Bissessar was the Prime Minister and they were begging for these things. Today, they might have had their own business. Today, they might have been gainfully employed with WhatsApp, TNTech, TSTT, Flow, Summit, right? But what this government is doing is putting things in place now. And it falls on the parents of these young people. Do not create a scenario as what they created then, right? When you still have some level of control and the opportunities are there. So when Kamla Persad-Bissessar took the decision to end the live sport program and the little money that they were getting, because basically that was the only benefit, because if Adolphus wasn't teaching the math and the English, then really and truly that was the main thing that live sport was offering. So these young men just go in every day, they sign their name and they collect the little stipend at the end of the month and they call that judge and they do what they could with it. But they were still available to be recruited by the criminal element. And today, we are reaping the results of that. But they wouldn't talk about that. But he wants to come and tell you, Rowley don't care about the black people. And Rowley don't care about the youth. And Rowley don't care about. Really? Rowley don't care about? He should have gone down to Napa last week Thursday, last week Friday, and see the same young black at-risk youth. The amount of them who will line up outside Napa to get in to a program, right, of the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service, to be able to introduce them to all of the programs that the ministry is offering, but more so to focus on the entrepreneurial. The $20,000 grant that the government is offering to these young people to start their own business, not to look for work, not to wait for Kamla Persad-Bissessar to come back into office so you could get a work, a morning work. No. They were lined up. You see in the videos, go on Foster Cummins page and see it. These young people, right? They were there because they're interested. They're interested and they came and they sat down. No matter however long it took, they came and they sat down and they participated and they signed up so that they could get the training from the UTC, the Small Business Development Company. They could see what it is NEDCO has to offer them and other entities so they understand. So now they have a clearer picture. If you came there and you didn't have a business idea, when you left, you had incentive to go and sit down now and come up with a business idea. So if 2, 3, 4 of them came there just to see what was happening because someone or their friend called them and say, yeah, well, let we go now. And they decided they had time on their hands and they went down to Napa last week and they sat down there, what they would have heard would have inspired them to now start a brainstorm. Whoosh, what business I could start by? I get in money, I get in technical support. They basically holding my hand to start a business. Let me think. Mommy, I want to do this thing, Yeah, daddy, I want to do this, I want to start a business. Because the government helping me. I didn't know that was there before. I need to come up with a business plan. 3, 4 of them could come up and say, well, sit down and say, well, here, what? Let all 4 of us come together and see what business plan we could come up with. We could form a partnership and start a business. The 3 of us, the 4 of us, instead of only one person. I have a business idea. Let me sit down and see how we could work it out and put flesh to it so that we could fill out the business plan. And then NEDCO is giving them assistance too with writing the business plan. So they have no excuse. But he telling you this government don't care about the poor and they don't care about the youth and nothing for the youth. And that's why you have all this crime taking place. Rather than use your platform and tell the youth, hey, regardless of politics, this is what the ministry has. Go down to the ministry, because when you encourage them, right? When you encourage them to go down there and see what it has and get involved, see which are the courses they may be inclined towards and sign up for it. Forget the politics. Tell them to go and do that, because you're supposed to have a vested interest in seeing that the crime rate in Trinidad and Tobago go down. But he ain't not in that. He will come and use his platform, and he knows that his fully done supporters will share it 50 times, 90 times, 120 times to their platform, so that they could provide for clowns like Captain Misinformation and Professor Clueless to come on Monday to Friday and talk rubbish about the government and doing nothing to help poor people, and they don't care about the youth. Right? Wouldn't use his platform constructively. But let me show you all the risks or what the results of that is. Let me see if this is still available here. Right? Give me a second.
We have
Just one second. I really wanted to play this on the video. Let me see. Oh boy. All right, I'm not seeing it. So I visited TikTok last night and I saw this young lady. How did I thought of her? Right? I'll probably find it back and play. I've seen quite a few of this. She looked like she could probably be in her mid-20s or there. Complaining about how she went to the MP for assistance, the PNM MP for assistance, and she went 3 times and she didn't get no help and whatnot and no assistance and the like. Well, what is she looking for? I don't know. And she not supporting the PNM and whatnot, because the PNM don't care about the young people and have nothing for the young people and all of that. But Makila Pandey passed through Maloney, and she went and she talked to Makila Pandey, and then she went on Makila Pandey's Facebook page, and she went through and she sees so much things and and she believed in Makila Pandey and what Makila could do and all of that. And she would tell her friend not to vote for the PNM and all this kind of nonsense. Right? She doesn't know about what is available. Clearly, she wasn't at Napa last week to see the opportunities that are available, but will do a TikTok and got over 4,000 views. And she has a following, almost 20,000 people following her, pushing that stupidness. Well, the government are doing nothing for the youth, and they are nothing for the poor people. And she went to the MP and she didn't get nothing. What did Makila do for you? Makila making promises. It's interesting that she started her walkabout, and so far, she's been to Maloney, Aruka Maloney, Labre, and Toko Sangre Grande. So she's so concerned about governance, right? But it seems she's targeting the PNM constituencies. She didn't say, well, all right, I'll go to 1 PNM, 1 UNC, 1 PNM, 1. No, she went to 3 PNM constituencies so far to try and chain up the heads of the people there. And young people like this young lady, I'll find it. I'll probably play it for you all on Tuesday. But it have plenty more like that, unfortunately. Right? So another one, well, I told you all how more too filthy. I can't even play her stuff. That's not, huh? Nah, I'm not gonna play you. Forget you. I should have really wanted to play that, but when I find it again, folks, I will play it for you, right? Needless to say. But this is unfortunately what the young people out there saying, and I don't know what platforms they're listening to. And you're correct, Veronica. What she's looking for is handout, not a handout. That is exactly what the UNC is seeking to give. But anyway, I move on. So on last week Thursday, or I think it was last week Thursday or Friday, the Ministry of Finance put out a notice. I deliberately bought newspapers yesterday and I didn't see it, right? Heritage and Stabilization Fund Quarterly Investment Report, January to March 2024. As at the end of March 2024, the total net asset value of the Heritage and Stabilization Fund was US $5,898 million, approximately US $239.3 million higher than the previous quarter's closing value of US $5,658 million. Right? So this is for the quarter, January to March. We still have another quarter for them to report on, which is April to June. And as someone who has a professional interest in the international equities market, where a lot of the HSF money is invested, I could tell you that that quarter's report will also be just as positive, right? And just as noteworthy as the first quarter. So the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, as at the end of March, the balance was $5,898 million. You also saw that on the front page of any newspaper. You saw it on the second page. The third page, when Carl Membert says that the media is doing the work of the UNC and they chastise him for that, the man knows exactly what it is he was talking about. Right? He knows what he was talking about. But when it was announced last year that in 2022, the fund had lost just over 900 million. That was a front page story for the Express. And there was plenty talk about that. They went and they called Jawala Rambaran for comment. They called Marlene for comment. They went to Kamla Prasad Bisesa for comment. They went to Rudal Munilal for comment. They went to, I think, Mariano Brown for comment on that loss, right? But here it is. This report came out. No comment, no report, no front page story, because we're not about making the government look good. Because if we put that as a front page story, we need to do an editorial to speak on it. And since the Express editorial only interested in couture and bacchanal, we're not publishing that. So I waste my money yesterday, my $4 to buy that rubbish, just to look for that story, wasn't there? Let me remind you all. Express, Daily Express, June 10th, 2023. Heritage and Stabilization Fund records US $913.5 million loss for 2022. Trinidad and Tobago's HSF made a loss of US $913.5 million last financial year. Its recently published annual report has revealed. And since its establishment in 2007, this is the first time the Sovereign Wealth Fund has recorded a total comprehensive loss for the year. They were happy to report that. The US $913.5 million US loss recorded last year was a sharp contrast to the US $624 million net profit after tax that the HSF made in 2021. The closest the HSF ever came to a loss before last year was US $9.7 million profit made in 2011. At the end of the year, the HSF's net asset value stood at US $4,712 million, down from US $5.463 billion on 1 year earlier. So at the end of September 2022, the value was US $4,712. Right? The US $163.99 million contribution helped to offset the market value loss experienced in the fund in financial year 2022. So you may recall that in 2022, for the first time, the government of Trinidad and Tobago recorded a budget surplus for the first time in 14 years. So there were no surpluses between 2010 to 2015. And prior to 2022, the last time we had a budget surplus was under a PNM administration under Patrick Manning. They love to talk about when the PNM in power and the PNM in office, crime does always go up. But they wouldn't talk about the only time that we had budget surpluses was under the PNM administration. These things they don't talk about. As at the end of December 2022, the total net asset value was $5,139 million. So understand, between September 2022, when it was 4.7 billion, and March, which is a year and a half later, right? Thereabouts, so a year and 9 months later, it has now grown to 5.8 billion. So it has recovered the 900 million that it lost. And there is additional to that. But that is not important for the media, for the Express to make a front page story. It lose 900 million, yes, but it gained 1.1, 1.2 billion. Since then, no, that is not a front page story. We don't need to call Jawala to ask him for comment on that, because Jawala was happy to talk about mismanagement and how the fund is being poorly managed under the PNM. But they weren't interested in calling him to comment on this latest report, right? This is the highest balance the fund has ever had. And based on, if there were no withdrawals in the last quarter, it means that when the next report comes out, that it would be over 6 billion US, so that the country's foreign reserve position looks good. It's improving. But when the figures going down, yes, we'll report that. But when it's good and it's going up, we have no comment to make and we're not reporting on that. That is not interesting. We are not going to give Colm Imbert and Keith Rowley any kind of leverage, especially in an election year. Good news like that, we're not reporting that. They'd be lucky if it is that we report that a week from now. And probably in the middle of the newspaper in a small column so. But they're about Trinidad and Tobago, right? But this has been published on social media. And of course, the Foley Dance, who supporting that other party, trying to pour cold water on this area. Well, if we be dotish, or trying to fool people, how much it was when Kamala leave office? Tell me that now. How much it was between 2015 to now? Well, let me help all you. Since apparently the Foley Dance don't know how to use Google or any other search engine, I will help you all. I will do the research that you are too intellectually lazy to go and do. So let me help them. Let me get it here. All they have to do is to pull up their search engine of choice. I chose Google, right? And just type in Heritage and Stabilization Report September 2015, and you will see page 13. So let me help them out here. Since they're asking and they want to know, for those who are listening, you want to know what the balance in the Heritage and Stabilization Fund was when Kamala left? Page 13. As at the end of September 2015, the fund's net asset value stood at US $5,655 million, up from US $5.533.4 million as at the end of September 2014. So for the 1 year period between September 2014 to September 2015, when they left office, the fund only grew by $122 million US in that 12-month period. But yet still, in one quarter, this year, from January to March, the fund has gained almost $240 million US, more than double in one quarter, in 3 months, what it is it would have realized in the last year of the PP, the last 12 months, 122 in 12 months versus 240 million in the space of 3 months. But that is nothing for the Foley Dance to talk about. The government only raiding the HSF fund and they only raiding the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. Really? With all the withdrawals that the government has made over the last 9 years or 8 years for budgetary support, when they took out money so that they could provide salary relief grants and income support grants during COVID, and all of these different things so that they could spend money to create facilities to house the sick, stuff like that, which the law allowed them to do. Despite all of those withdrawals, today, the value of the Heritage and Stabilization Fund is still more than what Kamala Persad-Bissessar left it at. But don't take my word for it. Just go and Google it. Heritage and Stabilization Report 2015, Trinidad and Tobago. And it's right there for you to read all 45 pages. If you feel like making things up, it's right there. When she left in September 2015, $5,655 million. And she herself has said that on numerous occasions. In her attempt to defend against the claim by the current administration that when they came in, they met an empty treasury, she said she left $5.6 billion in the HSF fund and she left 11 billion US in reserves. And for her, that means it had money in the treasury. Despite the fact that both of those have limitations, you are not supposed to really use that because at the time, the government could not withdraw from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund because of the law. And to advocate that you will use the country's foreign reserves for budgetary support is madness coming from a prime minister. But then again, I don't know what her specialty is. So when you see in the comments any of the Foley Dance asking what was the balance in 2015 and what balance the PP left it at, just remember 5.655 billion US. To date, it's as 5.898, higher than what she left it, despite all of the withdrawals. But they have challenged the government with respect to any and all withdrawals made, right? And the claim is that the government raiding the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. Let me highlight for you all UNC hypocrisy. Where is it? Let's see if I get it here. Right. Page 46 of the UNC's National Economic Transformation Plan, which they offer to you, right? They presented this in 2020, and it is the same plan that they offer. Because Kamala has been saying over the last few months, if you want to know how they plan to turn around the economy, go on the internet and look for the National Economic Transformation Plan. Let me tell you what they have on page 46. Public finances, restoring fiscal responsibility. On page 46 of 126, here's what it says. A new UNC government will commit to the following fiscal responsibility initiatives. Debt consolidation and management strategy. A UNC government will honor the debt to local contractors and suppliers of goods and services to the government and VAT refunds within realistic timeframes by presenting a debt management plan. 1. We will commit interest payments from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund for 2 years in the first instance of debt repayment while the economy gets time to grow. You know what they say in there? Put us back in office. And the interest that the Heritage and Stabilization Fund would have earned. So in other words, any monies, any interest that would have been earned between the time we left office in 2015, so we know we left it at 5.655, so we will minus 5.655 by whatever is in the fund. And for the first 2 years of our government, we will use those interest payments. So any interest the fund makes, we will take it out, and according to them, pay VAT refunds and pay down debt. So they were planning, they tell you in their manifesto, we intend to go into the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. But while they boasted between 2010 to 2015, we made no withdrawals. They had no such inhibitions for 2020. So if you had put them in office in 2020, they're telling you they would have gone into the fund, withdraw the interest income to pay down debt and pay back refunds. That's what they tell you they would have used it for. But we know better, right? So while what this administration would have done is to withdraw the interest portion, because the fund is higher today than it was when they left office. Higher today than when they left office. So it's basically the interest that the government would have withdrawn for budgetary support. When they tell you the government raiding the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, the same thing that they are stating in their manifesto that they would do if they come into office, that the government is doing now, they have an issue with it. You see hypocrisy? But the supporters, the fully downs, wouldn't talk about that because they don't read. So they have no idea that this is in there. It's very easy to nail their supporters to the cross when they're talking rubbish with this document. That is their manifesto for 2025, right? That is what they offer. But when the government does it, under the PNL, they call it raiding the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. That's what it is. Miss me with all your BS for me, please. So just let them know that. The HSF fund is at 5.898 as at the end of March. By now, I'm certain, barring any withdrawals, and I don't think any withdrawals were made, it would be over 6 billion, the next report, the highest it has ever been. The highest it has ever been. Okay? So just let them know that for me, please. What's the time there? 12:30. Oh gosh. I want to read two things. I want to read something the Prime Minister posted just now, and I wanted to touch on Ralph. But let me give you the Prime Minister's. Let me get it here. Oh boy. All right. Let's see. Right. Dr. Rowley posted this to his Facebook page 2 hours ago. The ridiculous equivalence of the Express editor. So the court has finally ruled that the 30 million gifted to an entity and individuals during the infamously corrupt live sports scandal must be returned. In its commentary on this criminal scandal today, the Express editorial sees a parallel between that and the PNM government's identification of steel pan elevation through placement of the image of the instrument on the national coat of arms and the removal of the Columbus ships of terror, slavery, and conquest. The Express equivalence is based on someone's ridiculous throwaway nonsensical analysis that it will cost hundreds of millions of dollars. The PNM government makes a decision which specifically points that the existing supplies will be used up and the new emblem will be phased in continuously as new supplies are procured. Therefore, there is to be a period where both the old and the new will exist until the new prevails. This is a responsible, seamless, low-cost approach by a forward-thinking government, which protects and advances the national interest. Yet there is this patent attempt to equate this meaningful decision with people and policies that were actually UNC government actions deliberately designed to steal public money. It is clear that, as usual, some local media narrators have difficulty isolating, highlighting, and criticizing blatant corruption and other shortcomings of the UNC without seeming to want to always attach the PNM to these unsavory practices on every occasion. In other words, they want to say that the PNM and the UNC is the same. And when it is things come out that highlight UNC corruption, leave it up to the Express editor to find some way to say, well, the PNM do that, the PNM know better. Today, I stand by the government's leadership and reject any similarity or equivalence between pushing on to a complete independence and this court confirmation of UNC mismanagement and corruption. So says the Prime Minister. So you heard him say it. All who said it will cost so much money and we had to find money to go and do over your passport and do over your ID card and do over your driver's permit. The Prime Minister is saying that there will be a period of time for which the old and the new will exist simultaneously. So he's not going to come one day and say, well, you see, all the money that we have in circulation, we're going to print new money with a new thing, and we're just going to, no. Over time, as the money wears down and wears out, and what normally obtains, that when the money is no longer considered to be usable, that it is extracted from the banking system, it's sent to the central bank, and then new currency will come out. The same thing with your passport. If you went and you renewed your passport last month or last year for 10 years, the government is saying we're not going to tell you, well, you need to go next year and do it over at expense to you. With the new set of passports that are coming in, we'll have the new coat of arms. And when your current passport expires and you go for the new one, because case in point, persons who still have, the government now switch from driver's permits to driver's licenses, right? So for those of us like myself who still have a driver's permit that is still valid for at least another 2 years, the government then say, well, here, what, everybody who have driver's permits, you all need to come in now and get a driver's license. Your driver's permit is still valid until it expires. And when it expires, then you can go to licensing office and you will get a driver's license. So you have your permit, it's still valid, it's still legal. And like people not understanding that, the government has not compelled anybody to go down to the licensing office and change from a permit to a license. It will naturally expire. And whenever that, if it's 2 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever, if you like the way the new license looking and you want to go and get a new one and spend your money, no problem. You could go and do that. But the government has not compelled anybody to do that. In the same way, the documents that you have, my marriage certificate and the birth certificate, it is still legal documents. All the government has to do is to put that in the amended legislation that says these things that bear the old coat of arms are still legally recognized documents. There is no issue. So everybody all over the place, and like this crazy lady who did this thing, all you saw, sir, was 3 ships and 3 ships. And she holding up all of her different types of the passport and the ID card. And I have to go and spend money now. And she's a single mother and she don't have money to pay for this. The Prime Minister, the government never tell you to go and change it. Relax yourself. But all this sort of hysteria on TikTok and Facebook and YouTube all over the place, spreading a set of lies and propaganda. And rather than the media, contact the Prime Minister or contact some member of the government for clarity. Persons are asking this question. So is it that persons would be required to come in and change their documentation in 6 months or 1 year? They wouldn't go and ask that. Instead, publish nonsense. And as the Prime Minister said, unfortunately, I don't have a copy of the Express today. And I don't know if I'm inclined to waste my money to go and buy it. But anyway, one more thing to touch on. It was my intent to read Ralph Maraj's article of last week, but it seems that he has decided to come back this week and double down on his tomfoolery, his idiocy. Decade of darkness. This is today, right? In the first week of January 2016, mere months after the Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, came to office, my column was entitled It's Getting Dark, focusing on economic clouds gathering, more bodies falling and more blood flowing, and the government's ineptitude on full display. I asked, what are our chances in this crisis? As if in answer, the next day, newspaper headlines blared bodies on the road and merciless as gun-toting criminals stalked the land, killing 5 persons in 24 hours and 14 in 7 days. 7 years later, in January 2023, my column was headlined Dimming into Darkness, saying everything has deteriorated irretrievably. The economy, the state, the society, all floundering, lacking leadership and direction, generating depression over the present and doubt about the future. You get the feeling of being in semi-darkness as night approaches. In September last year, my column pronounced night has come and darkness is upon us. This will persist into next year, possibly beyond. History will term 2015 to 2025 as a decade of darkness under Keith Rowley as Prime Minister. Remember Independence Week last year? Sunday Express frontline headline, Robbery Madness, pointed to over 2,000 reported robberies from January to July that year. Another, begging for food, spoke to the growing deprivation being experienced by citizens. And the day before the nation's birthday, another newspaper's front pages said, residents are sitting ducks for bandits, referring to the spate of home invasions also described by an earlier Express editorial. Right. I see where you're going with that. Let me go back to the one that I really intended to touch on. I saw Mr. Yates was calling, but give me 1 second, Mr. Yates. Right, let me just get this here. This is the one that I really wanted to read. Irfan, grade A, Rowley F. The Petrotrin sin, the shutdown of the Guaracara refinery by the government of PM's Dr. Keith Rowley, is in focus again. Indian businessman Naveen Jindal, facing corruption allegations in his own country, says he is no longer interested in investing in restarting the refinery because of criticism from this country's opposition. A curious pullout, said an Express editorial. You see, again the Express. And asked how serious was he about the investment, echoing skepticism of a great many who say with election coming, someone is trying to win Jindal's help to offload the disaster of Rowley's rotting refinery on the opposition. The government knows they should never have shut down the refinery in 2018. 1 year later, Finance Minister Colm Imbert admitted the closure had a profound impact on the country's GDP. What did they expect? They shut down a living entity that generated nationwide business activity and created employment for over 10,000 persons directly and indirectly. He goes on to say the refinery earned lifeblood foreign exchange in regional and extra-regional markets for its products, gasoline, jet kerosene, diesel, LPG, and paying taxes. So they were earning a gross of US $350 million annually. We must now import the products Petrotrin produced and have already spent US $7.6 billion over the past 6 years. Hear that, folks? US $7.6 billion spent by Paria, the important company to sell products locally and regionally. Worse, these transactions result in massive annual losses of US $250 million after expenditure and earnings, a drain of foreign exchange to purchase imported fuel, laments Imbert. See why we have a forex shortage, forcing small and medium businesses to close, increasing unemployment? Let me move on to his praises of Irfan Ali. Rowley went to Guyana in 2023, 5 years after his Petrotrin sin, and at that International Energy Conference, offered our dead refinery to the world, to any interested refiner or crude supplier. Pathetic. Nobody took him on. The mothball refinery does not fit into Guyana's plans for its energy future. You know what else doesn't fit in Guyana's plans for its energy future, Ralph? A refinery owned by the government of Guyana. They're not interested in investing in any refinery, despite the fact that they are producing barrels upon barrels of oil, hundreds of thousands of barrels of oil more than what Trinidad and Tobago ever produced. Are you aware of that, Ralph? Are you aware that they have sent out RFPs inviting the private sector to come and open a refinery? And all the government will provide is the land. No money, no other investment. They're not interested, Ralph. They don't want the headache that Trinidad had with having to pay salaries and protesting workers and having to deal with union idiots like Ansel Rogier and stuff. They don't want any of that. So they're saying if that has to come, let that be the headache of the private sector. Not us. The government don't want that, Ralph. But you wouldn't talk about that. The mothball refinery, right? So he goes on to say outright rejection by Guyana pronounced a Guardian editorial. And so, folks, your refinery has remained rusting in the Pointe-à-Pierre sun and rain for almost 7 years. An open national sore, a monumental mothball mess heading to a jungle of scrap iron. Still, Rowley's sidekick, energy minister, gives his boss an A grade for performance. An empty boast, said a Guardian editorial. He quoting editorials pointing to an unprecedented crime, social and human decay, and continuing failure to transform the economy. Indeed, after 9 wasted years, we remain a stale, decrepit, one-horse economy with not a single new revenue stream in sight. And grade A for Rowley. Just that alone should have caused the manufacturing sector to hit Ralph up backhand and knock out some teeth from his mouth for talking that rubbish. Talking about a one-horse pony, or one-horse economy, or one pony. What foolishness. The manufacturing sector has been growing significantly, but he wouldn't talk about that. Right? He strides that the government is making to turn around the agriculture sector by making agriculture sexy again for young people, giving them training, house, land, money. Ralph Marach has never spoken about it and will never speak about it. I wonder why. It's unfortunate that Darian wasn't available to blast his backside last week. Give it to Guyana's President Irfan Ali. He is overflowing with oil and gas, but still funding investments in mining, tourism, agriculture, and other sectors. That is diversification, folks. Tell Rowley. Yeah, but he keeps withdrawing hundreds of millions of dollars from their version of the Heritage and Stabilization Fund to fund these things. Right? If we had the kind of oil that they had and earning the kind of money that they could make, right? Look at how much money ExxonMobil has been making. And the Guyanese government has not even earned a fraction of that. But Ralph wouldn't talk about that. As fast as they put money into their Heritage and Stabilization Fund, called the National Revenue Fund, they take it out. It's not even staying there long enough to earn interest. It goes in and it comes out. But Ralph wouldn't talk about that. Anyway. Last year, Guyana had soaring tourism figures, almost 150,000 visitors during the first 6 months, a significant increase of 16.2%, was heading to beat the record of 314,777 visitors. Apparently, he didn't listen to, anyway, we'll come back to that. In agriculture, they have seen a massive 28% increase in sugar production in 2023, a remarkable increase in rice production set to exceed 710,000 tons, and over 20 million pounds of cassava already reaped in 2024 and being processed into farine for export to Brazil. Yeah, you're doing a lot of research on what is happening in Guyana, but wouldn't do research to see what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago here. Creating higher value and accessing more markets, says the president. Hear that, Rowley? Irfan Ali does not find diversification an annoying word. Are you not embarrassed about the condition of our agriculture after your 9 wasted years? Irfan has pushed Guyana's coconut industry to produce 92 million nuts annually, with 776 new farmers and an estimated 24,000 hectares under production. 776 new farmers. He praising that. But this administration is on track to create 1,500 new farmers by the end of 2025. No talk about that from Ralph. He missed that memo. He's also investing millions to develop Guyana's vast aquaculture potential, seeking to double the country's fish and shrimp production by 2025. What have you done, Dr. Rowley? Zero? Somebody needs to, listen, perhaps when Darian comes back out, he needs to direct Ralph Marach to the Facebook page of the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service. Direct him to the Facebook page of the Ministry of Trade and Industry for me, please, because apparently Ralph never heard about those two ministries, right? To be asking this foolishness. Where is the research? But the Express is only too happy to publish this garbage every week. in Guyana, an enhanced bauxite industry will make an aluminum plant a viable venture. Where was this clown when in 2010 the Manning administration wanted to establish an aluminum smelter plant in La Brea? Where was he? That wasn't viable then. When you look at the price of aluminum today per ton, we could have been making a ton of money over the last 15 years, right? But they challenge it. The smelter plant will give you cancer and kill you. You go dead. And chain up the people at La Brea. They say we want no smelter. And if it is you all bring smelter, what's going to happen? We are voting for the PNM. As soon as they came in 2010, cancel the smelter. But this clown, this idiot wants to come and talk about big up Guyana because they're looking to build an aluminum smelter plant. It's good for Guyana. I think it'll kill nobody in Guyana. In Guyana, you won't get cancer. But in Trinidad, build it. Under the PNM, you'll get cancer and dead. Sorry, folks, Guyana's economy is heading for the stratosphere while we are heading over to the precipice. Therefore, an outstanding grade A for Irfan Ali and an abysmal grade F for Keith Christopher Rowley. But Ralph, if I had to give you a grade for this article, you get a U, ungraded, because it's complete rubbish and a waste of time. I give you a V for vacuous. That is exactly what it is, Ralph. And W for waste of time. But the Express is happy to publish this trash every week from this man. But then again, in the editorial is the same thing. So the editorial complements this rubbish. So I don't know. Well, anyway. It just goes to show that all the things the government is doing, once these people have an agenda, couldn't care. So things are happening, but nobody gonna talk about it. Even except for the government. Let me take Mr. Yates here. Hello?
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, sir, good afternoon.
Yes, are you hearing me, sir?
Loud and clear.
Very good. Just a couple of things I would like to say.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, let me deal with today's editorial of the Express. If you wanted a perfect example of what young people call T-Fed, that is it. What is the evidence of that? You see the headline. You see the headline, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Wrong and strong. So you form the impression that, well, let's be curious. Let's see what he's talking about. Let's see what he's going to talk about. And we begin to read, but true to form, you see, true to form, and true to its consistency. The Express cannot deal with absurdities from the UNC without involving and including the PNM in their nastiness.
Correct.
We always do that. So you want to go after Annie Roberts. Okay, it sounds nice and glossy. And by the way, they were very euphemistic in their attacks. They really went soft on him. Even though they said some things that were condemnatory, it was not the tenor of that article. Didn't have the nastiness that they would have dressed up if they were dealing with something from Fitzgerald Hines or Dr. Rowley. However, true to form again, we read, but you see, when you read these editorials by the Express, you read and you wait for what you need to see, because you're going to see it. As night follows day, you are going to see what you thought was going to be stated by the end. So, as usual, true to form, the Express could not resist the urge. They could not resist the urge to say something condemnatory and nasty about Dr. Rowley and or the PNM. And true to form, because Dr. Rowley is your hobby horse, he's your pet hate. And lower down, they had to include Dr. Rowley. And mind you, look at the level of dishonesty and disingenuousness. You, on the one hand, you're talking about Roberts and a matter of major wanton corruption of taxpayers' funds. $34 million. Wanton corruption is Stephen you're talking about. And then you include Dr. Rowley near the end with the thing about the coat of arms. and he didn't consult with anybody. Those are things that poles apart. You're talking about thieving and corruption of public funds, and you're talking about what you feel is a situation where he did not consult with anybody. How do you put the two things together? That tells me that by hook or by crook, you needed to par your criticism, balance off by linking up the UNC, but also linking up the PNM too. So you draw Dr. Rowley into your poisoned article. You get the impression that you're going after Anil Roberts and the Life Sport program. But as I said, you couldn't avoid it. You had to bring in Dr. Rowley with the flattening. One is corruption, the other has to do with what you feel is consultation. Consultation. How do you put the two things together? How do you put the two things together? Wanton dishonesty by the Express, but they could not avoid it, doing what they normally do. That is their stock in trade. That's how they normally operate. You see, they always do that. Always do that. And by the way, as I go to this inebriated character called Ras Maharaj, let's just get it straight. First of all, he holds himself as some kind of intellectual. But you read his column week after week after week, the same words, the same theme, the same language, the same thing, all the time, the same language. It shows lack of variety, lack of versatility, and complete idiocy and one-sidedness and biasness. And the Express harbors this nastiness from this man. They harbor this nastiness from this. And his normal thing, he too cannot resist referring to Dr. Rowley's crudeness, crassness, this and that and the other, and quoting him, and they'll kill me dog, I kill you. You know, this wretch has never had one damn word to say about what David Nackett said about the former president, that she's an insipid jackass. Ralph Maharaj, who's a former minister of government, a former teacher, you have nothing to say about that. But you see, he condones it because he too has attacked Paula May Weeks over the meritless issue. So even though it's nastiness coming from Nackett, he will support it. He has nothing to say because he was also on the bandwagon attacking Paula May Weeks. So even though this man used the filthiest language to describe the former president, who's a woman, Ras Maharaj don't have one damn word to say about that. Ditto Anil Roberts. What he has said about people in general, Dr. Rowley, and women in particular, suggesting that Dr. Rowley's wife was unfaithful to him. It's some Indian man from Guyana. He has nothing to say about that. Not one damn thing to say about that. Never has nothing to say about what, not what my opinion, is what was on Roberts' live. If a woman want a job in the government, she had a gay Rowley, boom, boom. Ras Maharaj find nothing wrong with that. He finds nothing wrong with that. Roberts is okay. Nackett is okay. And if you notice, I have read every article. Now, the Sunday Express is sickening at this point, but I'll tell you something. I'll tell you why I buy it every Sunday morning. Because I want, you see, when I'm quoting, I want to have all my ducks in a row. I want to be able to speak from a position of strength and knowledge and read what they say to bolster my case of dishonesty by this newspaper. I want to be in a position, that is why I buy it all the time. To see the pattern of nastiness and dishonesty from that newspaper where Ralph Maharaj is concerned. And as a close, let me just say this. I have never been in any doubt about this. Daria never agreed with me on this, but I maintain my position. Ralph Maharaj's problem with Dr. Rowley, okay? Is that when Dr. Rowley and PNM won the general election in 2015, Ralph Maharaj got nothing. What he wanted was to be offered a senatorship at least and a plus ministry like foreign affairs. or education or planning and development. But Dr. Rowley gave him nothing. And that is at the heart of Ralph Marag's problem. That is why, that explains the viciousness in his personal attack on Dr. Rowley. That explains everything about him. He gets nothing from this government, just like Kajou. But laced in Ralph Marag's comments, you discern the level of nastiness and racism and prejudice coming out of him. And the Express should hang its head in shame. The board of the Trinidad Express and OCM should be ashamed of itself. You have this man who is really the newsletter of the UNC every damn Sunday morning, saying and indulging in nasty personal attacks on people. How could you, as a reputable newspaper, a paper that was founded by people like Ken Gordon and that kind of thing, how could you have people? How could you have this character indulging in nasty, vicious, personal attacks on people? You condone that? You like that? You support him? But you see, it is because he is so hateful towards Dr. Rowley. And the Express management, I dare say, is so hateful towards the PNM and the Black Prime Minister that they will condone nastiness at any level. Thank you very much, Mr. Wu.
Thank you, sir. See you. So one secular, let me just make this switch here. Right. Hello, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon.
Yes, sir, good afternoon.
Hey, how are you doing, sir?
I am good.
Editorial. And, I just wanted to throw one thing that Mr. Yates said. When you talk about reputable newspaper, none of these reputable is a word that does not ascribe to any of these papers that have. Because what is facing the government, and Dr. Rowley in particular, is a quorum of misfit and malcontents and a lot of misinformation. Right? Under the rubric of the esteemed fourth estate. Let's go out the window. And when one does what could have read, what is summarized with only summarize actively as one can by here. He doesn't do any research. What he does is it's planted to give what he wants to put in writing. Right? For example, there's a gentleman who makes up on a regular basis from Guyana. I think he was once a member of the current administration. I call his name right now. But he congratulated Shotong. He did a video congratulated Shotong and the government for the deals that we would have done regarding our energy sector. He compared what a long guy the bullets are out there. There's a being management and the contract they have signed. Because he pointed out in that video that the contract that they have signed is only a minuscule amount of money coming to Guyana from its oil and gas resources. The multinationals, Exxon and Mobil, who are doing the exploration, all of it goes to them very little, and like you rightly put, they are drawn on heritage and civilization fund and automatic. And you see, this is definitely, you can see that this government of practicing the treated them. Their solution is following that spend, we have the money, just spend. So talking about using the interest that will approve the civilization fund. To pay back the funds and our debt. What that will do for infrastructure projects? We're considering that. And remember too, you didn't read it, but before I have checked out. We also talk about the idle money NIB and in the unit trust,
Yes.
the money is not idle, right? So they are talking about going into that, and you know, when you talk about returns that have come back to NGC, in spite of the limited revenue coming in from methanol and so on, and the fact that the government sectors are listed, the downstream industries and producers really have because of the lack of gas supply. When we get in supply from 6 onwards, we will improve the revenue position for these downstreamers. What they are saying to us from the chief Dominic is that they will permanently interfere with the profitability of these companies, of the downstreamers. Because if they will continue to or go back to definitely the NGC money, that is what will happen. Right?
Yep.
If I don't understand this, and I want people to understand also, look at you didn't say it, but in my research as well, 5 years and this is verifiable. They admitted that it's not reflect, they not put anything into the Heritage and Civilization Fund 2011, 2012, 2014, 2015. Right? Did not. So it was easy to maintain the fund as it was. And I just said, even 140 million of the fund in 1 quarter under this government, and in 12 months, their last month is 130 million. Who has performed better based on those facts? But like I say, the government is responsibility to do their research and call them out with their lies. Right? And I am certain that we will not be getting that from Raj and the person who writes the express tutorial. Because all they are about is saying that the government is wasting. And like I said, there was a 900 million deficit in 2022. But we have now realized that the fund is back in the positive, and what the government has put in money into the fund in spite of the challenges they have faced. And I want to leave this one with people. But I hear some of the people I talk to that the UNC would have settled what the wage negotiation successfully done. But who did they leave for to tell these days? And confronted by that, what did the Minister of Finance ensure that they settled by the UNC all those people? And so, now, right? Nobody can deny that. And in addition, what all that they identified was important during the COVID period to what? People in jobs and to keep the parallel health system going successfully so. Right? And that keeps all the facilities that were open there for drawdown, step down when people were coming from COVID. That is what the money is for.
Yep.
To produce vaccines and so on to ensure that you can have the online system running throughout all the government ministries where it was possible to. And they're the only people who are actually to work with law enforcement, TNTech, NASA, and anything else. But by and large, right? And we also regular subsidy education workers as well, but by and large, everybody was maintaining the salary, in their lifestyle, while at home. Why? Because of the along with heritage and civilization. That is what it is for. Right? So we could safely say that the fact that Heritage and Civilization Fund is still up and running now. The fact that the one that's President, which they don't talk about, but they had the heritage part and they had the civilization part. Right? And the government was given rules for that. But they just want to say, Baba, like yourself, myself, Mr. Yates, Mr. Chan, Mr. Jenny, and others, who research and could come with the unadulterated fact. and bring it here, because we cannot count on the so-called. But we have to become the fifth state and the fifth horseman, not of the apocalypse, but of the because we have to counteract them.
Yes.
Until the social media machine of the system has to do a much better job. Counteract what is being put out there. Thank God for yourself and another public. Thank God. Take care, brother, and it's the best. Thanks again for standing at the your
Thank you, sir. Hello,
Hello, good afternoon, Dominic.
Mr. Chance.
Yeah, boy, your senior citizen partner there, getting along, coming along.
Nice,
Yeah?
nice.
This morning, it's my pleasure to rejoin your table.
Yes.
And after listening to Simpleton and Mr. Yates, and I want to say I totally agree with you. Your contribution this morning again, touching on very many areas. But I want to single out one of them, and I want to make my contribution on that.
Mm-hmm.
You actually indicated to us that the media, together with the opposition leader and other so-called intellectuals, are giving the impression that this country, nothing is happening in this country. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
We are catching with tail, we are catching with linen, nothing is happening, the government not doing anything. We're drinking validate juice. All of we are suffering. Let me remind them that in March of 2024, that's a couple months ago, the United Nations declared and printed what is called the Human Development Index for 2024. The Human Development Index. And you know what that Human Development Index does? I want your listeners to hear me carefully now. It measures certain things in a country. One of the things it measures is the standard of living. So when Kamala and all them other telling us that, look now, here in Trinidad, we go in the dogs, we are failed state. Everything rotten, everything stink, and everything is working. The United Nations, which consists of 193 countries, every year they rank the country in terms of Human Development Index. You hear the word? Human development. Dealing with the people of the world in the various countries. And they place these peoples in the world in 4 categories. High Human Development Index, meaning your standard of living is high. First of all, let me tell you, very high Human Development Index, meaning your standard of living is very high. Your education is of good quality, and your health focus is also of good quality. That puts you in the very high Human Development Index. The next category is the high Human Development Index. The next category is the medium Human Development Index. And the last category is the low Human Development Index. Well, they are giving the impression that we're in the low. Well, surprise, surprise. In March this year, the United Nations, let me repeat, made up of 193 countries, placed Trinidad and Tobago in the very high Human Development Index. There are 69 countries of the world, 69 countries of the world in the very high Human Development Index. Trinidad and Tobago is one. Let me repeat, Trinidad and Tobago, meaning our standard of living is very high. The opportunities we have in education is very high. The opportunities we have in health is very high. That's where we are ranked. Norway, I think, is number 1 in the 69 countries. But let me just close by giving you this NFT still, that Trinidad and Tobago is one of the 5 countries. You only have 5 countries in the Caribbean in the very high Human Development Index. 5 of them in the Caribbean in the very high, meaning standard of living very high. St. Kitts Nevis, Antigua Barbuda, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, and Bahamas. 5 of them in the very high Human Development Index. And I'm going to close by giving you even a greater detail on it now. I'm going to tell you by country where we are. Trinidad and Tobago is ranked number 60 out of 193 countries. You see, we are ahead of 133 countries according to the United Nations, and there are particular tools that they measure it. So those people are telling us that we eating grass, and we hungry, and we starving, and we suffering. That is not true. And that is why Simpleton said we've got to pay attention to the facts. And that is why we must tune in to the Bunking Lives headed by Dominic Romaine. Trinidad and Tobago is number 60. Barbados number 62. You see, we are ahead of Barbados. Grenada number 73. St. Vincent and the Grenadines 81. Here it is. Guyana 95. It means that all the money that is in Guyana is not trickling down to the people, the human beings in Guyana. So our standard of living, you see how many points we're ahead of them? By 25 points. That is this year. So whatever money they're getting from the oil industry, that's trickling down and improving the quality of life and the standard of living of the people in Guyana. It is not. And that is what the United Nations is saying. Guyana number 95, Dominica 97, St. Lucia 108, and Jamaica 115. And we started. We hungry. We have nothing to do. We are not what the government are doing anything. But let me close by telling you, we are on an upward trend in that. Last year, our grading was 63. This year, we are 60. So we 3 points ahead. So I want to congratulate the government on this work. There are challenges in crime and other areas, but plenty of things happening in this country, as indicated by the United Nations, which tells us that we are in a very high Human Development Index. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, sir. Always count on Mr. Chance to provide us with those statistics, sir. Jen, give me 1 sec. Let me just touch on one thing here.
You know what I tell me? That's when the thing it has cut off.
No, you ain't gonna cut off.
No,
I didn't answer you on the computer. Let me read this, right? This is a post from a Venezuelan who just opened a restaurant in Trinidad. It is not the fanciest restaurant in Trinidad, but only I know what it cost me to build it with zero experience and without even knowing how to speak English. Without bank loans, without contracts, only the support of a lot of people who believed in this project and many people who wish me well. For you and for me, we continue forward testifying that hard work and perseverance will give you great results. It is a path of sacrifices, but you are free to choose it. God is my guide. And the name of the restaurant is Andres Restaurant. A Venezuelan who came here, right? Open a restaurant. But we have the fully done every day coming on social media. We suffer it. We can't pay our bills. We can't buy food. The cost of living so high and we're struggling. But the Venezuelans who come in here, opening business, right? But you can't do it. You who live in here all your life, you can't do it. But they come in here and doing it. And then you griping and complaining, we suffer it. And the government giving you money. He didn't get the $20,000 grant from the government to start that. But they're giving you as a citizen $20,000. No talk about that. And Raj wouldn't talk about that. Kamala wouldn't talk about that. That loudmouth lout who always come in on social media to talk us such a stupidness. Inshan Ishmael wouldn't share that. He wouldn't share that. Naked wouldn't share that. No. Go ahead, Jen. Jenny.
Hi, Dominic. Good afternoon, Dominic. Good afternoon, all the callers, listeners, facts, lister, one thing. As always, go back to the Chinese philosopher and military strategist, Sun Tzu, in the Art of War. One of the things he said is, if you know your enemy and you know yourself, you will learn all your battles. And when I speak about enemies in the context of political enemies, and the problem that some of us may be having, we do not understand the enemy. Because if we understand the enemy, we're going to plan strategies to deal with the enemy. And if you don't understand yourself, well, then the battle is even harder. So some of them young people that you see on the WhatsApp and TikTok and all that talking, they don't know themselves. And because Kamala Persad and them understand the enemy, which is we, because they study we, because they have no good intention. They know how to capitalize on that. You all ask where crime started, in my opinion, when Kamala Persad became the Minister of Education in this country. When everybody was dragged into a secondary school. No longer was there post-primary and no stop guard, there was no trade school because they closed them down. and they ran straight into the secondary school system or junior sex system. And then she take a corporal punishment for children who may not even be ready for that level of education. And then now, Anna Roberts, thing it off there now with life sports. So when you look at the ages of the people who are involved in crime now, it's around the ages of life sport. It's around the ages of the end of corporal punishment in school. So that is a missing link there. We don't fool ourselves. Yes, the police have the job to do, the government have the job, of course, the parents have the work, the community have a work. But it must also have a genesis. And the genesis is not simply just the home. These are the factors that have impacted and created what we have. So I'm saying we ought to know the agenda for 2025. We ought to know the assignment for 2025. Kamla Persad-Bissess's only weapon that she has is to use fear, racism, and that's all she has. And because she's able to use it well, because in 2020, we saw how they weaponize racism on Facebook. I have never in all my life living in Trinidad been exposed to so much racism before on social media as well in 2020. And Kamla Persad-Bissess knew about it and did nothing about it. And it started from there and they became more emboldened to do it. And you know what we used to say? Ola don't answer them back now. Ola leave it alone now. I heard it's a stinker. And that again was another big mistake we made. However, we seem to have been recovering because when they go low, I make no apologies, Dominic, and all who listening. I go in lower. And I can go lower and very decent with it and come back up very decent again. But I'm not taking them talk with lies and propaganda about my community, about my ancestry, about my ethnic group, and about me as an African person, and not responding kind. That is why I keep on saying again, we need to have serious race relation talk in this country. It appears that some people of Indian descent feel the history only started in 1845. And that is a false premise because they start off saying they came to Trinidad to work because the Negroes, well, you know the word you used to call, we didn't want to work the land no more, we walk off the work and we didn't want no work. So they started saying we lazy from there. And then things happen from there. We need to correct them things, just like the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. We need to correct that history also. And that don't make it racial. That make it more educated to understand itself. And the same thing Harold complaining about some man, Harold, on the live there that we are saying back to Sue. He have a problem with the homestead program because he's saying the people who get the land, they're looking like farmers. They're looking like reapers. And I can understand the mind of those who think like them and Kamla Persad-Bissess. Because they feel the land in this country, some of them, is just for them alone. They feel that agriculture in this country is only them alone that's do it. Again, missing out 300 and so much years before them ever come into Trinidad, that is African people was doing agriculture in the West Indies. And we was doing it under forced labor, under brutal condition, mutilation, rape, and all the things, and for no money. And they come here and it's we teach them. Because I'll say it again, no Brahmin didn't come here, and they don't like to hear that. It's Dalits who came here, highly uneducated, unskilled, the untouchables outside the four varnas in India, and they needed to find another life to live, better themselves. And I don't, they come here and we teach them everything they know, because they didn't come here with no skill to do nothing. They didn't come here and cut down no forest to do nothing. They come and meet forest and cut down. The barracks that was living is African people build that. My enslaved African ancestors build that. They didn't have to do that. Right? In the hospitals, they were quarantined down Nelson Island. It's we build them thing. And it's we see about them. So they need to understand when they want to talk about me in this negative way, as if we're nothing in this country, we're something just like them. And you see that homestead program, it hottened them. But you know, in Guyana, President from Ali is introducing a program like that to give land to the women who are single mothers so they could plant and do and put a house on it. Why they have a problem with that? Whatever problem with, or you see that it's reapers who get any land? Well, you know what? What was wrong will put right. And I go to tell you. Time and time again, we have sat back here and said nothing in the interest of peace. We have always been the peacemakers. And that is what we do and we'll continue to do. But it's our time the peacemakers just have to talk also. Not to create confusion, no, but to tell the truth. I advise everybody who listening. You love Dominic, you love Mr. Chance, you love Mr. Yates, Pastor Google, Sharon, Juliet Dave. You love all of them. All of them all even love me and all. The information all they get in here, don't keep it all yourself. Tell all the children, tell the neighbor, tell your nephew, your nieces, tell everybody. So when 20, 25 days, 18 years old and older, everybody going down. That's the only way this thing could work. We can't just listen here and leave it alone. We have to take this information and educate so that the foolishness that they're hearing, they will know that is not the truth. If we don't say nothing, that will stay in their mind. So again, understand your enemy, political enemy. Understand yourselves, love yourselves, and know the agenda and the assignment 2025. Vote the People's National Movement resoundingly, so that when they go to the parliament to make laws, they don't have to wait on no special majority. They'll have enough votes to do what they have to do. Because you know the UNC is not about country. They say it's party first. They have no interest in running this country in the right way. It's about nepotism, contract to friend and family, and corruption. We have enough evidence. So you can't tell me they're showing me what it is. I'm only going to take candle to watch them in the night. Well, we want to only do that, yes? 2025, you know the agenda. People's National Movement. Out with Kalmanchi racism and divisiveness in this country. You all have a blessed weekend, everybody. Bye.
Thank you, Jen. Hello, good afternoon.
Dom, how are you, my friend?
I am good.
Amazing. Raj. When you in PNM, you know they were bad then? How you know the NF now, Ralph? What happened? You had some strap in your head? Did a massive check then you get a brain to work? Ralph and Ishmael and Anil, same rag. A rag of stupidity and hate and envy. The issue is Movie Town. They're blaming the government for this. But Mr. Chin owes government money, right? He's the one who put his people on the breadline. $103 million TT, but he wants to build in Guyana. Why? If you cannot mind one child, you won't have 5. Because the $50 million is money more children. The done is convenient because it suits them to be convenient. And that was a question. Why some people, why are you insulted when you're ready? They don't can read. Don't assume they could read. They go into sue you for insulting them for intelligence. They don't have that. They're intelligent. I know about you next one too. That's the question, Anil. If you're innocent, why did Pamela fire you? A person who is good at his job won't be fired. He'll be promoted, get accolades, and a raise. So, Kamala crazy? Or you just feel people are fools? Can I pray before we go? Thank you, Father God, for Brother Dom, for Jenny, Mr. Chance, Mr. Yates, and for Ruth and Joyce and God and Andrea, and all on his life, Father. God, independence is coming, Father. And God, those 3 ships meant hate for black men and women and children. And Father God is the God of all flesh. Father God, I pray that the coat of arms will be changed because it is your desire, Father God. God, we cannot change history, Father God, but we can have a new foundation. We can have a clean foundation, Father. I pray, God, you bless this nation. It's not by might or by power, but it is by your Spirit, Father God. I pray for you to pay them children, oh Lord God, as they have school on the 2nd of September, Father. I pray, oh Lord God, you go before them, Father. That, God, the Holy Spirit will go before them. That angelic host on assignment will keep them from the enemy's hand, Father. That they, Lord God, will be a quiver in your mighty hand. I pray for traveling mercies, divine protection. The Lord God, I pray for the mechanics and the butchers and the hairdressers, Father, and the plumbers, and whoever, God, you have called them to be, Father God, they will be. Because, God, you said you have great plans for them. For a future whom expected it. God, we need doctors and lawyers, yes. But we need mechanics, we need plumbers, we need people who can work for God. They are needed. We need cleaners, Father God, for us to walk on a clean road. There is no job that is too little in your hand, Lord God. God bless them and cause your face to shine upon him. And may God bless our government. God, I speak well over Canadian government. From captain to cook, in no other name, which is Christ. Amen and amen, Lord. So be it. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Brian.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hey, good afternoon to you,
Greetings.
Dominic. Good afternoon to your listeners and callers. I'd like to tell your last caller there, lovely lady, that Derek Chin is not only, he's Guyanese.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doesn't only want to expand in Guyana, but he wants to expand in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But he didn't want to pay the debt to the state. When you in that kind of business so long, and you owe it that kind of money, I wonder if you ever paid any bills at all to the state. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
And what I got to understand is that we have been trying to negotiate with him for years to say, listen, hey, you have bills to pay. But Derek Chin want to pay. Derek Chin want to live for free, like many in the UNC. And that's why they don't want no property tax and all the and revenue authority.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
But you see, Ralph Maraj will be allowed to peddle his diatribe every Sunday, Dominic. You understand? I want to sanitize himself on a Monday evening when Darian Marcel is on.
Yes.
But Ralph Maraj should know better because he's from South. You understand? Irfan Ali learned from Dr. Rowley. That is why he is offering the land alone and he is building no refinery, because he recognizes, as Dr. Rowley did, that let somebody take on that headache and only just pay royalties and taxes. Very simple. So when Ralph Maraj talking about the Rowley Shadong refinery and a lot of people lose jobs, people were paid handsomely. Dr. Rowley made millionaires.
Mm-hmm.
When the refinery closed down, brand new millionaires.
Correct.
I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. But what his services were down in South was because the age of the refinery created a position whereby people would sell things to the company at exorbitantly marked up prices. You understand? So it was a recurrent decimal all the time. The refinery wasn't going anywhere. It was getting worse. If you want to keep fixing everything, listen to me. As I said, I was part of operation support. And almost all the time, plants would go down because they could not get certain parts for that particular plant. And some plants would be down for weeks and months. You understand? It was an archaic refinery.
That is why Dr. Rowley had no choice in the matter. It was either that or, and then the 850 million TT US dollars that was coming due, plus another 750 million that was also coming due further down the road. Something had to be done because I recall the finance minister telling us on television, you see, me, I ain't paying that, we have no money to pay that. He said so, the finance minister. And Dr. Oli would have looked at all avenues in order to keep the refinery running, but he could not. And Ralph Maraj knows this. But he's being allowed to peddle his stupidity and his dotageness because of his hatred for Dr. Rowley. That is what he's doing, and he's allowed to get away with it. And that is why, as Simpleton said, we have to come on the radio and educate the people and let them know exactly what is going on. Because listen, we're fighting a battle against the Fifth Estate as well. It's a hatred for Dr. Rowley and what he has been doing and all that he has done. But they're talking about opening a smelter plant now. Down in Guyana.
Yes.
So when we tried to do it here, what I said, as you rightly spoke about, and this is some of the things about try and remember, talking about diversification. How many countries in the Caribbean diversify? How many? And it's trillion, and this oil company, billions and billions and billions, and they want to increase it from 600 and I think it's 85 or 95 barrels a day to over a billion. And what is Guyana getting for it? But they wouldn't talk about these things. They're not going to talk about it. Do you know in Trinidad and Tobago there was a meeting recently between Atlantic LNG's outgoing and incoming president with the Minister of Energy, Energy-based Industries. They have revamped trains 2 and trains 4. So you have trains 1 revamped, train 2, and train 4. That is all in preparation, Dominic, for when the gas begins to come.
Correct.
So they will be ready to receive the gas, and there will be no hold-up. Preparations being made feverishly to ensure everything is in place because the gas is coming. But they don't want nobody to know that. They want people to forget. You understand? And by the way, the stupid fellow who talk about Dr. Rowley's legacy is how much money he could get for the country by putting police on the road to give people tickets. They get a ticket when they do something wrong.
That's
or
right.
your car has an effect.
That's right.
You don't get tickets just so. That is what he wants people to believe. Dr. Rowley's legacy will be that Atlantic LNG where he got 10% for each train for the benefit of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. That is his legacy. Not putting police on the road to collect $1,000 for nothing. Because Trinidad and Tobago broke. How you know that? You working in the treasury? This stupidity I listen to sometimes. It is crazy. Dr. Rowley's legacy was what he would have done for the gas industry to ensure that we make money from ammonia, urea, methanol, clean energy. You understand? That will be his legacy to ensure that we have gas for years and years to come. That is how we live. That is what is going to improve us on the index according to Mr. Chance. The standard of living that we enjoy today will get even better. But Ralph ain't gonna talk about them things.
No.
According to Ralph, you know Ralph's favorite word is decay. Something smelling down by Ralph. I had to go and find out where he lives because something smelling down by he. He likes to use the word decay, everything decaying.
Yeah.
But I just asked him, where's the evidence of that? He could never give it to you. Everything always decaying. Like to talk about he dead. Hey, Ralph Maraj.
But he's too lazy to come up the road once a week on a Monday to talk to Dario and Marcel. You want to talk on WhatsApp, on Zoom and all kind of stupid.
Yes.
Come up the road, take a little drive. You wouldn't even do that. But every Sunday, you have nothing good to say about your own country where you live. But time longer than twice. People must remember these things, you know. Remember what the Ministry of Youth and National Service is doing for our youth. And they're coming out in droves. There was one much on the from East Port of Spain recently. 257 of them got a certificate. After they completed some work in plumbing and all of these electrical and all of these sorts of things.
Correct.
And then you have the drilling going on in St. Madeleine. The guy down there, the guy who went to Nafarima College, I know him and his family very, very well. I know his wife very, very well. She went to school on the school I went to. You understand? They're doing human service to teach people to drill so that they'll be able to get work in the upstream industries and abroad. The markets are opening up, and the relationship that we will have eventually with Africa will assist these same youths. But them don't want to hear that.
But Brian, Brian, in addition to that,
in Chatham get 2 acres of land, $20,000 and a startup home. They don't want to hear that.
Nah.
They don't want to hear these things. So we'll continue to repeat it and drive it home. You understand? They ain't talking about that. All of a sudden, they're talking about PAN. Nah, them never got a PAN semi-finals or a finals. Most of them. But they're talking about, I tell listen to Rudranat in that thing talking about PAN. Cuba Joylanders right in his constituency. I never see him there. And I was living in Cuba. I used to go there every night. I never see endorsing there. We talking about his concern about PAN. As some of them want referendum. We don't have no referendum in Trinidad and Tobago. But all of a sudden, no, they're talking referendum. What referendum they want to talk about?
Exactly.
This is ignorance and stupidity and what the perpetuated and all over the place for people who will not know better and take a little time to understand what we are trying to do. They're playing with your mind. People want to believe them. Want to believe them. But we have to stay the course. We have to keep the ship steady. You understand? And ensure at the end of the day that the PNM returns to office in 2025 because the wheels of justice are beginning to turn. And some people are getting a little bit anxious and nervous. You understand? They get a little anxious and a little nervous. That's why they could come and do a double and coffee to try to fool the people. But you see, at the end of the day, stay tuned, people. We will learn a lot more on this program and on the other program that we listen to, where we will get direct information via video come Monday. Please, God, stay tuned for it. It's coming. Because at the end of the day, we must remind the people of what went on back then. People died. People had to fly out of this country. And according to Dr. Rowley, even chapter and verse on what went on in life sport. And the forensic evidence that we have. Some people can't sleep at night, Dominic. They're rolling. They can't sleep. Things happening. And we watch and we wait. Dominic, thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, sir.
Maureen tells of an upcoming conference which aims to bring together NGOs, business groups, community groups, government agencies, faith-based organizations, and other stakeholders in a consultation exercise to plan for the revitalization of East Port of Spain. Some of the training programs already undertaken are carpentry, plumbing, and maintenance. Maureen, who served 2 terms as Deputy Mayor of Port of Spain, tells TV6 they have also spoken with the residents directly to get a sense of what they are interested in.
So one of the initiatives that we actually hope to roll out within the next coming month or 2 is our economic integrator program. where we'll be focusing on, so I just touch on those 19 communities in East Port of Spain. We want to ensure that we touch each of those communities, supporting business development in each of those communities with a grant. We've already apportioned out of our budget for this financial year thereabouts of $3 million for that project.
He says he wants to help change the bad reputation of East Port of Spain. Maureen says the community has a lot to offer.
East Port of Spain is a wonderful place.
Yes.
We have, unfortunately, the stigma that has been attached to it, but we are working with all stakeholders, and that's why that stakeholder conference is so important,
yes,
to reverse that stigma. We see East Port of Spain as being, we see East Port of Spain as having the opportunity to be like what Trinidad and Tobago was for Singapore when they came here and looked at our model and said, we are adopting that.
Maureen further notes that by opening new doors to the youth in the community, they may be discouraged from a life of crime and drugs. He adds that this is a long-term plan to disenable those attracted to a life of crime.
It's really a minimal amount of persons who are
Yes.
getting involved in this, that create this brandishing, this negative brandish on top of East Port of Spain. If we can pull them away from that by showing them, okay, there's opportunity here, there's funds available here for a project that can help you sustainably move forward for the next 10 plus years, I think we will, within a period of time, lend that support to the national security system as they deal with that hard aspect of it.
Nicole M. Romani, TV6 News.
Right. So aside from the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service, which is spearheading this drive by the government to create entrepreneurs, to provide opportunities for the young people, and not just the young people, because they have stuff for persons over 35 as well, right? To the age of 60. So you have a business idea, right now it's just in your head, you want to take it out from your head, and you want to make it a reality, you need money to do it, government is saying, come, we will help you. You need support, they say, come, we will help you. You need training, they say, come, we will help you to do all of that. Because they recognize at the end of the day, the more businesses we have, the more money that the people make, they can assist in creating employment as well. And it adds to the taxes, the country's GDP, and so on. So here it is that you have East Port of Spain Development Corporation, which is an entity under, I believe, I'm not too sure if they're under the Ministry of Housing or whatever, right? But they, on their own, are also pursuing opportunities for young people, and not just the young, residents of East Port of Spain, to help them to develop businesses. So those who already have businesses, the people who sell in every day on Henry Street, Charlotte Street, Frederick Street, all these streets that is selling on, Independence Square, and you're from that community, they're saying, yeah, well, come, let us help you to improve. Let us help you to move from that. We're not telling you need to stop doing that, but we want to help you to take it to the next level, creating generational wealth. You know what the fully done saying about this? Yeah, they're just giving IDPNM, they're trying to buy votes. They're only helping other people in East Port of Spain to get them that money so that they will support votes. Election come in. That's why they're doing that, but they don't care about the poor people. The same people who always crying about all them persons who come in from East Port of Spain and is Lavantel and is Beatum and is Silas, that's where all the criminals and them living. Because they don't have opportunities. But when it is that the government creates the opportunities, they're trying to buy votes. They will never support it. They will never say kudos to the government. You know why? Because they realize that these things could assist, and they figure that could give the PNM another 5 years, which they don't want. But while this administration is offering employment opportunities of that nature, entrepreneurial opportunities for the people in that community, let us never forget what Kamla Persad-Bissessar offered them. 2 things. Color me orange. $69 a day to paint dilapidated buildings, which this administration wanted to demolish and build new buildings, modern buildings for the benefit of the same people who live in there. Let us not forget who tell the people, don't take chain up from the PNM. They're telling all of that, but they just want to come and put all you out. And then they're going and build high-rise buildings for the 1% to come and take. That's what they're telling them. And you have people living in these communities who taking that chain up. Like Professor Misinformation from that radio station. He's another one. Waste of blasted time. Wouldn't encourage. They will come every week, Monday to Friday, talk a pack of rubbish, and will never talk about any of the 40 programs. If they will ever invite Foster Cummins to come on the program and talk about these programs? You feel they will invite Foster Cummins to come on the program and share what the ministry has to offer? You think they will ever invite what's her name? Paula Gopi-Schoon to come on the program and talk about what the government has to offer? No, how they could do that? Because they thrive on lies and telling their supporters and their listeners and their callers, the government are doing nothing and they don't care about poor people and they have nothing. When you listen to fools like Kunji and this next one they call KFC and Love in the House, when you listen to the idiotic contributions, they have no clue as to what the government is doing. So that exercise that the government had at Napa last week, Tuesday and Friday, you think they will, the video clip is available. What I just played here, you feel they will ever play that on the program for people to hear? No, because they have to do the bidding of their leader. So let me give you an example. I'm looking at the time here, signing off at 2, but let me give you an example of the idiocy. Let me get it here. Just a little piece. A little piece.
Good afternoon, TikTok. You see the people coming in my comments on my video and brandishing me a UNC and talking and still talking African and Indian and all them kind of thing, right? All Europe and freaking dead now. All Europe and dead. Because the young people are not studying nothing. It's all the totish elderly people talking that crap still. All are Indian African.
Give me 1 sec, hold on, give me 1 sec there, Jenny. Let me just give them a little bit of this here. Yes, no. I don't listen to their program, I just hear about it. Yes.
Right? And my focus is to get rid of the PNM. Right? You see, the PNM is the problem. Not the Indian and the UNC. Them are not the problem. They say the enemy of my enemy is my ally. Mm-hmm. Right? As far as I'm concerned, PNM is my enemy.
Right.
It's them why the country hard. Mm-hmm. It's them why police getting free ticket. Yeah. It's them why cost of living high. It's them why food prices high. It's them why all them potholes on the road. You understand? Them why all the killing and murders in this country happening going out of hand. You understand? All these home invasions and extortions and all this larceny and all this thing going on. Them why the country going down. You understand? To me, them is my enemy. They come like them war me and my children and my family and war my country. Right? And if the enemy of my enemy, which is the UNC, right, is my ally, then the UNC is my ally. Okay? Because the enemy of the PNM is the UNC. And the enemy of my enemy is my ally. So the UNC is my ally. Right? So I will do my video on them and talk about what's going on in the country. And anytime anybody talk about what's going on in the country, or they branding them at UNC, well, yes. Right? And I probably well focused. So I don't miss me when I look coming with all the crap about what's going on and the UNC this and the UNC that. Miss me with that. The UNC is not my problem. The PNM is my problem right now. With them running the country. Right? And anybody who talking about, both of them is the same thing. You to hold with that too. Go to hell with that stupid talk about both of them is the same thing. Because if I tell them now, you see all the people who say no on the fence there and talking about, both of them is the same thing, and another one, and I can't vote for the UNC, you go vote for somebody else, and you go vote for a third option, and you ain't go down vote. Anytime you vote for other party, you vote for the PNM. Anytime you see your man ain't going to vote, you vote for the PNM. You might as well put back the PNM.
But anyway, what I want to call him is not live friendly. It's not live friendly. So I wouldn't do it. But it just goes to highlight the idiocy of this man who has a radio program. And that's the kind of thing I will like. Right? Come in 5 days a week and talking rubbish. Foolishness. Making no sense. Or is the government that have the price of food high? Because the government could go in any grocery and tell the grocery owner, you need to cap the price of your goods. I don't care what you pay for it. I don't care if it is that you had to go on the black market and get US to buy it. I don't care. This is how much profits you can make. And you know what the businessman will simply say? Well, since the government want to tell me how much profit I can make, well, it don't make sense for me to have no business. I shut it down. Because apparently, I didn't know Keith Rowley owned a grocery, but that the PNM owned a grocery, right? But this is the idiocy that they're coming to talk about is the government. Everything is the government and the government. There's the government fault. And the populist agenda of the UNC is what, I don't know if it is that he getting paid to promote that, but who want to say he's a UNC. You went up a UNC crime talk meeting in Laventille. You get up on the microphone and tell Kamla Persad-Bissessar directly, yes, she will be the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And you were proud to say that. But you're not a UNC. And watch him. He stopped short of saying it. So if it is because somebody come and they say, well, when they do a video thing, then that means there's UNC. Well, yes. Well, yes, what? Say it. Say I'm a UNC. He wouldn't say it. He wouldn't say it. This ungrateful wretch, when it is that he was sick and needed blood, it's the PNM, Sharon Felix, who rallied PNM people to go and give blood to save his life. Someone told me that when his daughter had passed for some school, I can't remember, some junior stuff, some school that he didn't like. And it was somebody from the PNM who was able to assist him in getting her to go to Providence or something. So all of these things he forgets. All these things he forgets. But the PNM is his enemy, right? And it's the PNM in charge and them running the country now. But like he forget what it is that the UNC offered between 2010 to 2015, which is why the population voted them out. He forget that. What have they offered? How have they changed in the last 10 years? They have not. It's the same party. In fact, they've gotten worse. And what they're offering is a bunch of criminals to serve as government ministers should they win office next year. That's what they're offering you. Criminals to serve. A man who is under police investigation for human trafficking and prostitution. A next one who is on bail, $1 million bail for fraud and conspiracy. A next one who was fired from 2 public utilities companies for gross misconduct. You have another one who is under police investigation for trying to hide millions of dollars in a Miami bank account and her life insurance policies. These are the people that Kamla Persad-Bissessar is offering you to serve as ministers. A man who still has questions to answer under live sport, right? And his involvement. It is on record, as I read for you already, Minister of Finance at that time said that he was the one who brought Adolphus Daniel to him. And no one to come and tell you about nonsense about it was a issue with a dispute between a contracted supplier and the sport TT and all kind of nonsense, and will never speak and say, yes, he never denied what Larry Hawaii said, that he brought Larry Hawaii to him. Has never told us what is the status of his relationship with Mr. Adolphus Daniel. How, in what capacity did he know Mr. Adolphus Daniel before he brought him to Larry Hawaii? Never mentioned the fact that they gave Mr. Adolphus Daniel the contract sole select. There was no tender. No, they put out no RFP. So nobody else was afforded an opportunity to bid to charge 30 million or 25 million or 12 million as Mr. Daniel started off with. So they come and hit you 34 million and nobody else was given an opportunity to bid and they gave him the contract. And in fact, the contract was worded specifically based on his proposal, right? He wouldn't talk about that. But that is what he wants to be another minister. And then you have people like David Nakid and the likes of them telling you, yes, they want to be ministers. And as I said before, Kamla Persad-Bissessar only has the bottom of the barrel to scrape from to be able to give you a cabinet should she win next year. So when that happens, all who want to play fast and loose with your vote, don't complain. Don't complain at all. I have Jenny waiting here too long. Jen, let me just switch this thing here. Let me make sure. Jenny.
Yeah, Dominic. That gentleman is a perfect candidate for the UNC. He lacks emotional intelligence, and he's just like how the UNC like them. They like them Negroes. And the song will just play doggy, doggy, look up. It's really the self, like projection, and also they feel about themselves. Because it's them, he who looking for doggy, doggy, look up. His emotional intelligence. He has none. He has none at all. And I'm questioning whether or not he may have some challenge with cognitive thinking, critical thinking, if that may be one of his issues. But it's instructive. You see that red rag or the pink rag, some of we have in our mouth and just let go loose on people. Mm-hmm. As you would have said, when that gentleman was sick in Montauk Hospital with the PNM bill, with Dr. Eric Williams' bill, and his blood count was so low that he was in almost a critical position. He couldn't get no blood from nobody. Miss Sharon Flakes come on her program. I heard her herself in them days. I never used to call it the program. And she was begging people. And that listenership on her program is mostly PNM people to go and give blood. People were resistant because of the behavior he used to get on before, when on some Saturday show and all that. I don't know much about that. And then Miss Flakes contacted a woman who is a PNM. I said, elderly, who knows he knows her wife and get her son? Who knows that fella? Don't know that fella? And went to donate the blood for him. So today, he could turn around and say them PNM people, them elders and them, they should hurry up and dead. I want to tell that gentleman, I don't know his name. Don't talk thing in isolation, you know. Because what you're wishing for people, hope it is spin back on you, you know. Wishing death on elderly people who ain't do you nothing. In fact, it's the same PNM elderly who had you up and about and talking strong on radio today. It wasn't UNC went and get no blood. It wasn't KFC and Kunji and all them who just call the program and cost people when the day come. It was PNM people that went to make sure that you get blood. So today, you go to the one cost. People may tell you ungratefulness is worse than witchcraft. But again, when you want to be a Negro and a candidate for the UNC, for them to see you, you say, Mommy, yes, I hate them. I hate them. I said, them know the dirty and the wicked and the duncy and this PNM don't. You just have to sing for them to notice you. And you don't understand in the UNC. You just get used. Because whatever they give you, you can't enjoy it properly because they didn't get it the right way. So I want to tell that gentleman again, and he's allowed to sit on a radio station. Don't you imagine on a radio station? I told that same radio station 91.9. I was saying because I don't understand how it's good for some, it ain't good for some. That same conversation you had, I didn't call nobody name. I had it on a morning program. And the fact that some individual child pastor from junior second, the same PNM it has cost. It is alleged she went to PNM minister is alleged and get the daughter from going to junior sec into Providence or something so. We didn't even say it that way. Somebody went and called them and said, I talking about the children and I drag the children. And they had a whole program that make me where people called it and said a prostitute.
What?
That I just work on Murray Street. And the owner of that radio station, I'm sure that was listening because I was listening to everything. Because they hear something that's called the host to tell them what not to say and how to say all that. And they said, oh, and listen to that a whole 3 hours program. It's calling a caller. We call nobody name. That's why I work in Mauritius and I at this and I had dirty and I stink and they didn't say nothing. So now I tell them, you see that tongue in your mouth, that red rag? Very careful when you're interfering with people who don't do anything. And that you're wishing on people, old people, PNM old people, to dead quick. What about waiting to spin around, you know? And I hope you're happy for when it's spin around because usually one talking a negative thing in this case. But again, people are saying are doing it. That is what we have to deal with. So instruct your children, the family, because you'll find a lot of them, a lot of those Negroes who looking doggy, looking for a bone. They have no education. They don't want no education. They want gimme. And once they get the rest cost you. And even when you give them, they'll still turn around and cost you. Only beware, say, only know the enemy and know yourself, you win all the battles. Them, he say, we see enemy. Well, he declares himself an enemy, so we say, well, you must say we love you. I don't understand that. If you're saying use we enemy, use the enemy of the PNM, and we PNM people, and you want the PNM elderly today. What do you want me to say about you, young sir? You want to have love and we have this is slap we and we cheat and turn the other cheek? I don't really think so. So, again, Dominic, you all have a blessed week and a blessed weekend.
Thank you, Jen. Yeah, you always calling for people to dead. Hurry up and dead, hurry up and dead. If PNM people who give you blood had said that, today you would have been 6 feet under, or you would have been in an urn. PNM people, we have plenty to say about now. They didn't say, hurry up and dead. They went and gave you blood. that they didn't have to, but ungrateful wretches like them. Well, sing for your supper. Sing for your supper. Well, when it is if they come back into office in 2025, for the next 5 years, and the things that we take, you see the same thing we told the people in Tobago, but they didn't listen. PNM this and PNM that. Put them back. And for the next 5 years, when it is they looting the treasury, when the money starts to come in from the Manatee field and the Dragon gas field and all of that, and they waste it. People like him, when he start to talk about corruption, is to reach to the phone and just slap him. Last call. Hello, good afternoon. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dominic.
Hi.
Dominic?
Yes, ma'am.
I am the person. I'm calling to tell you I am the person.
Mm-hmm.
I am the person who, that young lady spoke about the Sharon Felix who helped Heavy. My son went to give blood for him. And I got 2 persons to give him blood. You know what I'm saying to you? I didn't want to do it because I heard him on a program. I used to listen to him. And when I heard what he was saying, I stopped calling him. And then when Sharon called me and she said, oh God, don't do that. He's very, very ill because I have been hearing it on the program every morning.
Right.
And I did that and I went to him. But I want to say to him, I wish him luck because I am his angel. I'm a very senior person, but I am his angel because today he's alive. And I want him to know that someday we don't stay young forever. Because I called this program one day when I heard it, and I told him what I was here to say. And then TC came the next day and said he was listening. And he didn't have nothing nice to say. Those 2 young men, something wrong with them. I'm not going to put mouth on them, but heaven help them. Let them go ahead. They have far to do. And I will tell them, all of the preaching there for, crap was not the kind. You take that money. Have a nice day, Dominic.
You too.
Because that is those 2 young men. I don't know much about TC. I don't have nothing much to say about TC. But you see, Heavy sick. Have a nice day, Dominic. And I wish him always. I hope he stay healthy and young all the time. The blood have been feeling very nice. Have a nice day, Dominic.
You too. Folks, thank you all so much as always for joining me. So much more to talk about, but we just don't have the time. As I say, out of time, but not out of things to say. So we'll continue the conversation on Tuesday morning because there are some other stuff I wanted to touch on as well. So Tuesday, 6:30 a.m., God willing, we will chat again, right? And hopefully I will find that video of that poor misguided young lady to play because I really want you all to hear the things that go into the mind. And it seems she's one of Michaela Pandey's field officers, if you want to call it that, right? And I want to say to Michaela, if that is what you're recruiting, and that is what you're encouraging, and you want to give the impression that you're for country, and you want to see things improve, but you have people who are working with you and supporting you, taking to social media and talking rubbish like that, rather than informing themselves, and you start off on a very bad foot. Very, very bad foot. And you need to check that, right? Because you can't have people who are supporting you, going on social media and TikTok and so on, defending you, bigging you up, and cussing, right? Using their videos are laced with profanities. You start very bad. Can't tell me that you're supporting the youth and then you have the youth doing that nonsense. The alternative to the PNM is chaos and confusion. Always remember that. Folks, we will chat on Tuesday, right? Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I don't know if it's still rainy outside, but keep safe if you're going out on the black carpet. So we want you all back here on Tuesday so we can chat again, all right? And to the folks in the comments, the PNM are not great. It's the people of Trinidad and Tobago that are great. Let's fix our country together. That's the first sensible thing I've seen Winston Bachelor say. Yeah, well, I hope you know that. And instead, Winston, instead of coming here to talk nonsense, use your platform, please, to be able to share what the government has to offer for its citizens to come out of poverty. As the Prime Minister said, right? Nothing wrong with the rich getting richer, but the poor must come out of poverty. Must. And he didn't just say that. That wasn't just lip service. He went a step further, created a special ministry, and with the assistance of other ministries such as Trade and Industry and the Ministry of Finance and so on, he's putting his money where his mouth is. The government's money where his mouth is. Understand? And creating those opportunities for the poor to come out of poverty. And I have been able to direct 2 persons to that very same program to get a grant. And today, you know what? They're on their way to starting their own business. After they're just doing the little thing on the side, but now they're able to do it on a larger scale so that they could earn an income and they don't have to go and work for anybody. They could write their own paycheck. So let's try and direct the young people in that direction instead of directing them on Facebook and well, not Facebook, TikTok and so on to talk rubbish now and to bad talk the government. When it is there are things for them to do and opportunities for them. Okay? So, Alison Phillips, Nadia Dixon, Annette Baird, Hyacinth Lewis, thank you all so much. We will chat on Tuesday.